So that sheet is comments from union.
The way, is that what I said?
I just got that summarized. They sent it today, so yes. Yeah, but I'll talk about it once the meeting starts, but just so you know.
Cool.
Sorry. Oh gosh, I could have just. No, you're not supposed to do that. My lesson is the lesson is open them before the meeting starts. You're so sweet. I have a million of these.
Next time, bring little shooters. I feel like that's what we need to get through these meetings, Tammy. Come on. Step up your game. Well, very. And a pint for you, and a pint for you.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm just glad I don't have the seat that has that lump in it. There's one of the chairs, have you sat in the chair that has a lump? It was that one, is it not?
I don't think I've sat in this one.
I meeting in here yesterday, and I sat in the chair with the lump, and I was like,
She moved it to your chair.
maybe it's this one.
Move it down to Chase's.
I must have never sat in that chair. I don't know, unless I'm in it now, and
I can sit in it.
I don't think I.
I don't think this is it, but I sat in it yesterday. Maybe it's this one.
Is that it?
Maybe it's this one. See if it's this one.
These are chairs.
But I did sit in it yesterday. It was like who needs it? No, huh? Do you have it? Do you feel like you have your sit on
I have a lot of cushion. So I have a natural cushion, so maybe I just don't feel the lump. Mr. Vickery? Yeah.
Oh, no, it's this one. It's this one. It's just not that, I just wasn't sitting that floor.
Mr. Christensen, how are you today? Sorry. Did you want to re-walk in?
I gotta pull up the agenda. Now
You did a great job on the minutes. That was a hard meeting.
well, I wanted to get feedback about minutes tonight. About what all your thoughts are about minutes.
When I first saw
Hey.
how long. Like,
I'm not seeing that link on the website, Haley. I do see the agenda piece, but I'm not seeing that additional link that you were talking about.
Okay, so if you go to departments and then planning and zoning, is it not right there?
No, that last sentence, please and on, is not on the website that I can see.
With the cache, I think it has to do with like. Okay, how about?
Lance, if you can go into like a incognito mode and try it or something.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually logged in the website right now. I have been having weird issues with the website because it will randomly like log me in and I don't realize it but if you go to the departments and then go into P and Z agendas and minutes, it's also there. So if you scroll down, then it's supplemental after the agenda. If that works, Lance. That's just another way.
Okay, so just clarifying, the supplemental is the draft tower regulations. Is that what's in contents of that link?
The supplemental is like there's a comparison. We'll talk about it once the meeting starts, but it was just some stuff that I put together and sent to the commission today. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was able to look at it during the meeting if you are joining remotely.
Okay, I'll try to follow along. If I have questions, I guess we'll go from there.
Or do you want to just send it to him?
I see it here.
Is it popping up for you? I think it has to do with your cache on your computer sometimes, like if it's not cleared. I don't know. That's what I found. I have to read. I expect participation if you're here.
Good, Goodrich.
She should be here soon.
I like the new meeting minutes and agenda section. That's nice.
Are really trying to clean this up right now.
That's
So I'm
nice.
like,
I like that. Thank you.
it's not,
Kind of mimics the
well,
official.
we tried to put it with the county commissioner
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but it made it confusing because it would be like mixed in with it. So we just thought, let's just put it on a page and
Oh, this works.
we'll get it improved. 'Cause even trying to find some old minutes and agendas, we're still trying to find stuff. Okay, so go to department. Well, just hover. Then go to planning and zoning. That is so weird. It's not coming up.
Is that what the agendas and minutes is it?
Check here. Check there. Okay, you know what? I'm so glad you're here. Thanks.
Damn it.
I'm gonna check. Click on that. Find some more typos for me while you're at it, please.
I think that's exactly.
There, so it's working there. And then the other tab is the supplemental.
I only see it if I go to P and Z agendas and
That's weird.
Is Lance still able to speak?
Someone, oh, Batana wants to speak.
You're good. I just got here too. It's good.
I think you can unmute yourself, Batana.
Yes, thank you. I think I found the supplemental on the calendar.
It is, okay, you're right. It is on the calendar also. Oh, I don't care.
Whatever.
I will check that. I can't spell. Okay, that is
No,
just a weakness in my life.
I can't either. Nor can I speak.
So
I call it a strength.
I can spin it into a strength in an interview.
And that's
I was going to record from Teams.
Are we not using that then?
We are using that too.
Okay.
Start recording. So transcribe. Private. Good to go.
All right, I would like to welcome everybody to our October 16th meeting for planning and zoning. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:12 p.m. And I do apologize for those online and in the room that were running a little bit late, and that was totally on me. I was running late today. So anyhow, I would like to welcome everybody here. Like I said, both online and in person, we really appreciate everyone coming in. To start this meeting off, we will take a look at the minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone gotten a chance to look over them? Do I have a motion to approve them?
Okay, I did want to know that I included your recommendations because Doug Vickery was not on there and I corrected a last name. So the one that you are assigning is the corrected version.
Okay. Perfect. Do you know my name is spelled wrong on here?
I can't spell. So if you guys notice anything with spelling, with the attendance especially, please let me know because the hand
It's okay.
sheet is like really hard to read them. So
And
if you notice anything, let me know.
It's
But,
okay.
I can.
It's okay.
Your name
No, it has a T in Roberts. Roberts is fine. You call me whatever you want to, Haley. It's totally great.
Any-
It's close.
any other edits or anything? Because then we could just make a motion to approve with that edit, right?
Yes.
That's-
Yeah.
Oh, good point. We got Chip.
Oh, we have to do roll call first.
Right.
I'm sorry. Let's start there. Let's start with roll call. Sorry.
It's okay. You want me to start?
Yes, please. You're to my left, so I'll choose
Is
you.
that the way we usually do?
Yeah, that's the way I do it.
Tammy Crossan present.
Holly Roberts, present.
Goodred Espenscheid present.
Chris Lasinik present. Do we have Chase?
It's probably driving.
Yeah.
I guess we can't let people
Which kind
unmute
of
themselves.
seems
in the
like
last meeting.
Weird.
I think he's planned it that way.
Yeah, John Public. It's like there's someone at their name, John Public.
Did the same
Oh.
thing. I couldn't
It's someone who
remember.
doesn't want someone who
I
is.
just
I wouldn't say.
He was just.
like John or James. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on then. So moving on to the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve with the one edit made with the spelling of your last name, Holly.
Perfect. I've got a motion with an edit. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain as I was not here. So motion passes, minutes are approved with the one edit.
Madam Chair, do you mind if can I interject for 1 second? I just wanted to welcome our new office and staff and just maybe get a quick intro or hello.
Oh, let's give her a microphone so we can hear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, sorry, Christy. I wasn't sure if you were here at the last meeting.
No, I wasn't. This is the first meeting I've attended. So my name's Christy Bain and I'm the assistant for Haley.
She has been amazing. Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you on board.
Yes, thank you so much, Christy. We look very forward to working with you and we are very appreciative for sure. Okay, so looking at our agenda, we don't have anything on the agenda with in regards to permits or anything, correct?
Correct.
Nothing came in?
Correct.
Okay. So the only thing that we have on the docket today is working on our tower code within our regulations. That has been something that in the past we have just covered under public facilities and it has become more of a frequent thing recently. So we decided as a board that we definitely needed to address this sooner than later. So now is the sooner. Haley, is there anything that you would like to go over with us first before we dive into this?
I guess just for an overview of what documents are in front of you, let's start with that. So in the agenda packet is the current proposed, the most updated version of the code. This was taken from the website and that's just after Chris, I appreciate you bringing up where that was. I didn't even think the most current to be on the website. So this is the one from the website. And then there's also in the agenda packet, it's more of a sample template regulation that's been prepared for municipalities. And Clayton provided that to me and just wanted to share that. So that's what's in the agenda packet itself. And then the supplemental information on the website is there's a couple things on there. One is a table, which is showing comparisons between the draft Sublette County code, Park County, Teton County. the city of Rock Springs, and then that other model code for municipalities. And just a table showing some different line items on here, summaries. And this other document PDF is more just a general overview for some considerations. It's a 2-page document, just some things maybe for us to talk about, or just general overview with tower types. And then also there's another handout. This is not on the website right now. I just received this one today. So sorry for those of you who are online. I will share this on the screen, but it is some comments received from Union about our tower code. So I just wanted to make sure everyone had those, and it just states what the section is and what their comment is. So I just got those today, and which honestly, they did great getting back to me. And I sent out an email to Union and to Lance from LR Communications, just to invite them to the meeting and to get us some comments ahead of time if they had them. So that's why we got these beforehand. I wasn't aware of anyone else to reach out to, so I didn't. But if you guys think of anyone else down the road, let me know.
And we also have this one. This hand.
Okay, so that random one is kind of just something that I put together. It was a while ago. That's another place that we have information is on the OneDrive folder. And all of these documents in this OneDrive folder is more for your use. This is not available to the public, but it has the Park County regulations. It has the Teton County land development regulations that are in that OneDrive folder. It has all these documents in here, and I'm trying to make this more of like our home of where we keep the drafts. So if we start to draft up a document, we can have it in that OneDrive folder, and we can all be providing things together in that. Sorry, there's a lot of information out there. But I was just thinking, I don't know how you typically do this with reviewing and going through this. I just thought at least somehow trying to categorize it, or do we just go through the code that's already been drafted? Do you guys have ideas?
Well, it also brings up too, so you weren't at the last meeting, but I thought it might be wise that we ask the commission for assistance with writing tower code. Because I think we talked about it as a board. And so I joined Haley.
Do you want to use a microphone?
You can use me.
So I joined Haley at the commission meeting. Chris was there because he was on the agenda for his subdivision. And we had a conversation, and at that time, we brought up 2 different drafts of communication towers that were outstanding. And so the commission kind of looked at me and they're like, well, you have all of these drafts that are out there. Why do you need some? We've already paid someone to do this for us. So at this time, they declined any assistance. And I don't know, Doug, if you want to add to that or not, but. Okay.
So I will say, I reached out to a contact that I had. She is a professional contractor that works with the counties, and she actually worked with Park County to develop their standards and regulations that they just wrote. She also has worked with Laramie County and Albany County, and I just reached out to her just as a personal reference, and asked her some questions in regards to this that we were talking about. And so that's what she actually referred me back. I knew what she did. So she referred me back to Park County, which she said would be, in her opinion, probably one of the best references that we could use. And I apologize that I didn't pass on this information. I literally was just able to talk to her this afternoon, and I happened to talk to Haley, and so Haley was able, thank you for getting the Park County stuff into here. So like I said, I was prepping, I was in the middle of a job site today. Yeah.
It's just ironic the way it like
It's
works.
just speedy.
I know she's good. She's good. But I do apologize because I haven't been able to pass on any information. I was working on a job site today, but she said that that is definitely one to follow because they did a ton of research. They worked with Wyoming lawyers to make sure that everything was legit. She said the only thing that she knew of in the Park County standards that it didn't really cover was small cell communicate or small what is that? What did I
Small cells,
small cell?
they're pre-permitted, right?
Yeah, so she said that currently they're up in Park County, they're going through some sort of a lawsuit. So they didn't settle things on small cell up there due to something going on with that. But she said that Albany County and Laramie County are two that are good to reference for specifically for small cell. But she said, like I said, that Park County, they literally just got done doing theirs. And like I said, and she was in full process with them. And so she said, just for a quick reference for us, that's a good one to look at. And like I said, I apologize. I wish I could have gotten all this information together beforehand so we could have looked it up closer. But
What's the name of this person?
her name is Melissa Ruth.
And she was the one who worked with Park County?
Yes.
I guess I'd wonder too, Haley, if you have, I mean, you did a lot of this work, so I'd love to hear if you have any takeaways, thoughts, suggestions of any kind in your analysis.
I first just went through the current code that was proposed. And I feel like we have something that's drafted, but I think from just going through it, there are some things with the structure that I guess just structure in general, some things that were repetitive or and it did get me thinking a little bit more. Let me see where I had it right here. But I was taking some better notes about it. And then as I was making this table and coming up with the list, it really just got me thinking more about there's so many different factors of things to consider.
Mhm.
And how do we really get all of this in here? Do we just go through the different topics and try to do this more by topic? Rather than like each different cell type? Because it is more of a policy. What do people agree on? What does the board agree on with policy? And then if Clayton and I need to work on creating the code to share it back with you, we can do that. But it's more getting your thoughts on the actual policy.
Right.
So, but I was like, even just going down some of this list, I think wouldn't be a bad starting point of like, hey, what do we like or what don't we like?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts on things I'd like to see when I read it and looking at there was some case law that had been shared with us previously about past lawsuits related to towers and stuff that I thought was informative. So kind of based on that, hearing some comments in the past couple of meetings. So at the appropriate time, I'm happy to share those thoughts, but I'll follow whatever structure. And it'd be good to hear from Lance, and if we have someone from Union too, that'd be.
Looks like Courtney's on the line, or Christopher and I think Courtney are here. They were the ones that were part of that Union Tower application of Big Heidi.
I defer to you guys because I don't.
Madam Chair.
So I'm thinking, I mean, we do have a good base that is already drafted that you guys worked very diligently on. Do we start there? And then,
And apparently, I didn't know until this past meeting, but apparently the original language was from a consultant that was paid that the commission was never aware of existed, but,
oh,
and then we modified that. I didn't know where that original language came from, but apparently that's where it came from.
so it, okay.
FYI, that was news to
Yeah,
me.
we found that out last year.
Oh,
It's fun.
yeah.
But yeah, we could,
And then maybe as we work through this proposal, we can reference these wonderful tables that we have. And maybe we can also, could you bring up the Park County? And like I said, I apologize because I feel very unprepared in regards to that, because I didn't even get a chance to look through the Park County after I finally got a hold of Melissa.
This is the Park County. Like,
I think it's, she said section,
Special development standards, I think. It's just there and then
yes, I believe so, because it was in chapter 4.
I think
search find. Yeah, it does.
it's just there that I went to the,
So before we start this process too, I want to make sure that that I'm understanding this correctly and that we're all on the same page. So we adopt this as an amendment to our regulations.
I
I want to make
No,
sure I'm
I'm not-
understanding this process.
I suppose that is the way that it would happen, yeah. And tonight, can we do anything tonight? Because was this noticed? I mean, we're not making decisions tonight, we're just working session, but yeah, but when we get there. Yeah, I think we would just add it as a new chapter, the cover, it would be, obviously it goes to the BOCC, they would vote on it. And
Right.
then, the cover page of the regulations would say last updated, blah, 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 with the new amendment date. I think.
Okay,
I mean, that's how it works when we did it past couple of times.
okay. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to make sure. So this is essentially, which I don't think we're gonna get all the way through it tonight anyhow, but tonight's a working session. We will, when we work through it, vote on our final decision. It'll go before the county commissioners and then it's an amendment to the regulations. So,
and we already advertised the November meeting. And I put in the advertisement that something may be asked to go to the county commissioners. So that's already been done, but it doesn't mean it has to.
so if we get it
If
complete by the
is
next
complete,
meeting,
Yes,
then it,
we just.
okay,
need to
then
do
we're
it.
legit.
Yep.
Okay. All right, super. Well, I think let's just start then.
To ours?
Yeah, let's start with ours. Is everybody in agreement? Just to start with the draft that we have and we can work through it.
Sounds good to me.
Sure. I am at your mercy. I know nothing about how this has worked in the past.
Okay, so the purpose of this chapter is to implement standards and establish procedures in order to protect Sublette County from the uncontrolled expansion and siting of towers or wireless facilities and locations that have significant adverse effects and may cause irreparable harm. It is further the purpose of these provisions to protect the community's visual quality and safety while facilitating the reasonable and balanced provision of wireless services. More specifically, it is the county's goal to minimize the visual impact of wireless facilities in the community, particularly in and near residential zones and in and along highly visible and scenic corridors. To establish clear guidelines and standards and an orderly process for review intended to facilitate the deployment of wireless transmission equipment while providing advanced communication services to the county, its residents, businesses, and the community at large. to promote and encounter shared use and co-location of towers and other antenna support structures rather than the construction of additional single-use towers. And D, to provide regulations which are specifically not intended to and shall not be interpreted or applied to, 1, prohibit or effectively prohibit the provision of wireless services, 2, discriminate among functionally equivalent service providers, or 3, regulate wireless facilities and transmission equipment on the basis of radio frequency emissions as long as such emissions comply with the standards established by the Federal Communications Commission's regulation. There's a lot of words in there. Okay. Everybody, I think
That
I
all
worded well.
sounds right to me.
Anything to add?
It does. My only, as you were reading through it, like, I don't know what single-use towers is defined as. So where are we with definitions? With this?
Look, chapter 1.
If you had definitions in here.
Let me just say.
I'd be surprised if we had something for single-use tower.
I would be too. That's a great question.
Guess we need to look not at our current definition, but at the chapter 1 on the website.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but we looked and I didn't see.
Okay,
So definitions, which I would go to Park County. 'Cause I
well,
know
their
they do.
definitions are
Yeah.
right here. These are their
That's what I saw them up
definitions.
there earlier, so let's just take a quick. Just to see if some of these are on there that triggered. I don't know if that's what you want to do, but. Cause that's half my problem is that.
We have the relevant definitions we have in our draft. We have antenna or antenna array as a definition, which references towers. Got a macro cell definition for that.
Where is this, Chris? I'm sorry.
This is on,
Oh.
if you go onto the website, the planning and zoning website, there's
Yeah.
a link on the left-hand side called new exclamation point 2025 proposed, and there's a chapter 1. That's where I'm looking.
Thank you.
And
There's a couple
I
others.
think too, from talking, from the sounds of it, these definitions, it might make sense to, like you're saying, put these in here right now. And have a definition section for now, just so we have the definitions if this is going to the county commissioners.
Well, it can be abridged and put in.
And then we eventually can move it.
Yeah. Or we could just, well, yeah, that might be the better way to do it. But the other ones we do have, so we have a definition for tower as well and wireless facilities. Those are the, oh, and wireless infrastructure provider. Those are the relevant ones for this.
But just going off this single use. Hours, how would that be specified?
So what does Park County define as single-use towers?
Sure that they have a definition of it.
They
That's
might
our
use-
term, not theirs. I'm not sure that they use that term. They don't use that term. I mean, I think what we intended it to mean at the time was just a tower that only supports one
One service provider?
service provider. Well, yeah, I guess one service provider could have multiple dishes. So it's what we have a term like that we use. What do we use?
So would single use be the same as small cell?
No, I looked up the definition of small cell, and that has very specific
Okay.
cubic feet measurements associated with this. I think that's those may be the same, they may overlap, but a
Okay.
single use is likely also outside the definition of a small cell
This is
too.
my issue with this, because you can just take single use out, because we're trying to encourage shared use of co-location. So why couldn't we just take single use out and just use towers?
Yeah, that's a good.
Of additional towers?
Just towers, yeah.
Yeah, just take single use.
I think that makes.
I mean,
We
I think
want to
that,
encourage co-location anyways.
yeah,
Right,
or
because
just
that's
as
exactly-
opposed to additional towers.
That's a good, yeah.
Yeah, I like that edit. Okay. Okay. Are there any other comments for section 1 for the purpose? Mr. Christensen?
My comment isn't specific. I've got two editorial comments really.
Super.
And so it's not particularly relevant to this particular section, but if you notice in the proposed regulations, section 1, the subsections are alpha, section 2. the
Oh,
subsections
good
are-
point.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so it flip flops between the various sections. So I'd recommend making that uniform.
No, thank you.
And then the second editorial comment is within the legal profession, there's a strong movement to get away from using the word shall. Because shall also has connotations of being permissive. Shall we go to the park? Shall we do this? And there's been a lot of litigation around that. So I'd recommend removing the word shall throughout this proposed regulation. And using more defined must, will, may, if it's a permissive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there any comments online in regards to just section 1 on purpose?
Hey, this is Chris Schlax from SAC Wireless on behalf of Union. I typed it in the chat. I guess I can unmute myself now, but I just put in just some general thoughts there. Single use might be, as you suggested, like a single carrier versus ensuring a certain number of co-locators on a tower or a new tower. And then small cell, typically those are installed like on a light pole or a power pole, just an antenna up on top of that versus a macro tower, which is going to be a dedicated cell tower or something similar.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good clarification there.
And that's the only place that we use the phrase single use in this chapter. So
Yeah.
we don't have to worry.
So I think, yes, if we just
Right now.
delete that out of there. Okay, so with that being said, we'll move on to general provisions. Number 1, wireless telecommunications facility or towers are only allowed by conditional use permits within all zoning districts. A commercial building permit is required for construction, modification, reconstruction, or addition of an equipment to a site and must demonstrate compliance with the current Federal Communication Commission FCC regulations. Number 2, exempt facilities. The following facilities are exempt from this section. FCC licensed amateur or ham radio facilities up to 70 feet in height. B, satellite earth stations, dishes, and antennas used for private television reception. C, antennas attached to existing structures such as commercial buildings, houses, or apartments for the purposes and used solely for occupants of the building to which the antennas are attached as long as the maximum height limit of the zoning districts are not exceeded. D, county facilities, equipment, and services, including but not limited to those involving sheriff, fire, EMS, and related to public safety, health and safety. And E, a temporary wireless facility that provides communication for an emergency management services, news coverage, or coverage of special events. These wireless facilities shall be exempt from the provisions of the section for up to 1 week before and 2 weeks after the duration of the emergency or event. So the one comment that we do have on this, it came from the folks at Union, and they were wondering about the facilities on federal and state lands. Is the county planning to require a CUP approval for towers planned on these lands?
That falls outside of our.
That's out of our
I-
jurisdiction, correct?
It is, but I did do a little bit of research about it where the county could be required to be notified about them and have some sort of review process. Even there are some other counties that say that they still require a permit, but it just depends, like if they still do require CUPs in some counties, but if the I think if the federal regulation is more, they are more of the controlling government, you know, when it comes to the approval. But
Mhm.
there are places that they've come up with a special case, a special conditional use permit. I think actually that's on the table. I thought that was interesting though. I'd have to look a little bit more into it and talk to Clayton about that. But it seems like there is a way to be, for the county at least, to be involved in the process.
This says our jurisdiction in the chapter 1 in the opening section of the regulations say the jurisdiction and operation of the zoning and development regulations shall include all of the privately owned unincorporated lands within Sublette County, Wyoming, with the exception of county-owned lands which shall be subject to compliance with the zoning and development regulations. That to me doesn't read like we have any jurisdiction over.
It doesn't according to that code, but I mean, just from my research,
Yeah.
it seems like if we wanted there to be any sort of review,
Okay.
there possibly could be. It would just have to be part of that review process where the county could be notified. And I think I'd have to talk to Clayton about what extent could that go? Like if a CUP is denied here and it's on BLM and they went through the whole NEPA process,
Right.
how much does our CUP weigh into that?
Hmm.
So, but I thought that was interesting too.
Well, they have certain restrictions that they have to go through.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They're
yeah.
pretty.
I mean, that's where I guess I just feel like if it is on state or federal, I feel like that's the level that they deal with it, not. So basically, if it's something that's within a state section or BLM, they deal directly with the state or the feds.
Like unless they want us to, unless the state or the feds want us to have a role in it or something.
Correct.
Right.
But the only reason we were invited to comment is because it was about input about historic value of input. It
Mhm.
wasn't really related to zoning.
Telling you should talk, Gudrun. It's a hint.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like that's Clayton would definitely have an opinion on that. I'm quite certain. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it sounds like it'd be good if you
I
talk
think it
about
would be
that.
good to talk to him. Just from my initial review, I was surprised when I read that there is allowed to be some sort of input. But it's like how much input really would, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know.
I'd like to propose that we change in number 1 where it says, are only allowed by conditional use permits within all zoning districts. I'm not sure that's where we're going to land. So I think maybe we should say within those zoning districts identified in chapter 2 or something to that effect. Because we may not say, like, that makes it sound like it is all zoning districts. If we do something different in chapter 2, those would seem to conflict. So I think we should just refer to chapter 2 as opposed to saying all zoning districts here.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments on that?
How soon are we going to be adopting chapter 2?
Well, we may need to, I mean, this is like definitions. I think we're going to have to, because we do not have anything called a tower. So this is going to put us into the realm of pulling towers as a distinct thing that are identified outside of public facilities, which means we're going to have to say what zoning districts we want these in. So we're going to have, when this gets approved, we're going to have to update chapter 2.
And everything in.
I think that's where if we could somehow make it where right now everything is in here. And then we can, when we go, we can then amend it because all of this is just by resolution. So at some point, if we adjust chapter 2, maybe we come back to this at the same time and amend this one to better reflect it because who knows how long we're going to be until we get to chapter 2.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be easy enough just to say, like, for the purpose of this, we're just going to go into chapter 2 as it stands today, forget the draft that we have for the new one. We're going to take what we have today and we're just going to say, put the word tower under conditional use permit for the districts in which we're okay with it being.
We adjust chapter 2 right now to say towers.
So it stays, that is the only thing we change is just we add the word towers to the conditional use section of the zoning districts that we include.
Q or whatever when we were going through. And that's
Part Q, but
You know, goes down the last one.
Yeah,
That
where,
we had talked about, like, even from that first meeting.
yeah, where it talks about where the conditional use permits are applicable and and like part of them says public facilities, like we just within there just specify, like we're not, that's the only thing that we're gonna change within chapter 2 is just adding towers
Right.
to
That
those
makes
so that
The
it,
listed.
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
So we would change this within, what did you say again?
within
Chapter 2.
those identified or those applicable.
someone will have to wordsmith it, but
Yeah.
and identified zoning districts in chapter 2 of these regulations or something to that effect.
In the identified zoning districts from chapter 2.
Another thing I noticed with this, I'm curious your thoughts on requiring a building permit for the modifications. I also am curious about addition of equipment to the site. Because personally, anytime someone does this, that's going to be bombarding the
Right.
office. And it's like, what is the overall goal of this? Like, what's the overall goal of wanting to know when someone is, or like maybe we changed, like maintenance is allowed, where it's like modification, is that considered maintenance? Oh.
Yeah, it seems like we would care about anything that would substantially change the nature of the tower. So
Right.
we're gonna add a bunch of solar panels that's gonna have a significant aesthetic effect or something that's gonna really change the nature of it. Otherwise, if it's the end, if it's essentially the same at the end of the day, I don't think we care.
Right. Because even if it's like addition of equipment, even if they put up like one more receiver or something, like you said, that's not a significant.
Yeah.
So how do we word that? Because I would agree with you that we don't need a permit every time that they want to.
Could you just add maintenance in there? Application maintenance.
I would defer to Clayton because there are certain federal regulations that allow them to expand on what they
Yes.
currently have. And so I don't know if this is even applicable to us, that we could even put this in here.
Lance, did you have a comment on that? Thoughts?
Yeah, I had a few comments on section 2 there. And one of which you guys kind of touched on already, which was wireless telecommunication facilities or towers are only allowed by conditional use permit within all zoning districts. When you guys are referring to what we refer to as small cell sites, that also have shot clocks on it and such, that imposes an undue discretionary reviews. And so the conditional use permit on a small wireless facility or co-locations that qualify for just administrative approval probably run afoul under the FCC's 47 CFR effective prohibition clause. And you guys were kind of talking about it there, where if the carrier wants to add more equipment on the tower, they're generally allowed to do that, and federal law usually prohibits local regulations from impeding that.
That's great. Thank you. Because, and that was one thing that Miss Ruth, whenever I spoke with her today, that she very much emphasized is that we have to be very careful because there are very thorough regulations from FCC that we have to make sure that we don't, that we don't squash, that they,
For power.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have to be very careful.
How would you do
And,
this?
and there was one other.
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Sorry, Lance. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, there's just enough delay. It's kind of hard for me. There's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I don't remember who I spoke with about it. One of the things was antennas attached to existing structures. A lot of the space that we operate in is what we refer to as this small cell site. It's not so much cellular service, but the telecommunication facilities are really small. And so one of the things that's apt for us to do is to install equipment on existing structures, such as like barns or houses and such. And we're not installing a macro cell tower. We're just installing a few additional antennas on an existing building to provide services. And the way this is worded, that's going to require a conditional use permit for even that if it's not exempted under the small cell rules. And I really think that's probably not what you guys are looking to prohibit. You're just looking to prohibit, or at least have more control over the macro towers, and so much than the little facilities like that that don't impact the aesthetics or value.
So thanks, Lance. Is small cell, you just kind of painted a picture that I was going to ask you to paint there about like what's a typical instance of a small cell, and I think you answered that by saying it's something that you might add to a barn or some structure or something. Are small cell almost always that sort of scenario, or do they have other kind of manifestations? Are they ever based on the ground, or are they always kind of attached to an existing structure?
They'll often be in the form of like a typical utility pole, something that's typically less than 50 feet, that has a small number or a much smaller sector size of antennas that are on the facility. You might think of the typical 5G deployment model if you look up, 5G small cells inside a town or community. Aesthetically, they're not much different than a ham radio tower if you wanted to look at it in the perspective of how big the facility is. People think of towers and they think of something that's massive that goes, substantially into the air. And most of these small facilities are more on the liking of a utility pole.
Yeah, so Park County, just as a reference, I mean, they have this kind of wireless communication facilities hyphen communication towers, wireless communication facilities hyphen, there's communication tower type 1, type 2, and then there's wireless communication facilities, small cell facilities. So they treat, whereas we're using this general term, which is I think what Lance is pointing out, of just I went away from the text, but wireless telecommunications facility, we're just using that as one broad term. So it seems like I bet Lance is right that we don't really intend to. We probably do want something like a small cell exemption, which I think Park County has something like that too. So it may just mean we need to define that more narrowly into types or categories like Park does, and then add some language that excludes small cells from going through the same process that the other ones go through.
And especially, like, would we put parameters on it similar to the ham radio facilities where they have a up to 70 feet in height? Would we want to look at that where we put?
I think we do. Yeah, I think there's probably some sort of height. I mean, we're gonna have to talk about height, maximum heights for sure, across the board, I think.
Right. Without having to get some kind of a special permit, or do we have?
Well, maybe it's, small cells require the least amount of permitting and vetting, unless if they want to exceed a certain height or something, then they need to go.
Because I mean, I guess in my mind, especially with him explaining small cell better, in my mind, I don't even think that a small cell would need a CUP.
Well, small cell, if you look at Park Counties, is like defined very narrowly by cubic feet in volume. So it really, you're pretty restricted on how big a small cell facility can be based on that.
Based within an imaginary enclosure.
So
I really like the way they have. It's a lot different than how we lay out our things.
it's much more specific. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should use a similar approach. Okay, so I think for the purpose of that section, though, it's about being more specific in our language, and And some greater definition.
See if I- These weird pop-ups because of Teams. Don't worry about it, Gerald. I can't read it.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that too, that definition, because then too, it gives us parameters of what exactly is a small cell facility. And you don't have someone sliding it on the sly, claiming it as a small cell facility. Like, it just gives distinct parameters, I guess, that they need to follow. And if it's anything beyond that, well, then we need to take the next step.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been defined,
Yes,
which is what we need to be doing.
we need to be doing. I agree, because we don't want, yeah, we need to have something.
So we should include a small cell facility in this section.
I think we probably included in the definitions, and then what we say here is we either explicitly exclude small cells from this provision, or we just explicitly call out the other types that we want to be included in this provision and implicitly exclude.
As exempt.
Right.
So, yes. So if we, to write this down.
Yes, I was curious your thoughts when it talks about the type 1 and type 2. Is that a general term for towers to have like the two different types? Is that common or is that just special to their code?
I think that's more special to their code. I don't know that there's an exact reference that I would point back in the industry that I'm aware of.
Or if someone else knows. Just was curious.
No, it looks like it may be just defined there with the operator piece of it. You know, commercial users on the top, and then the type 2 is non-commercial. So that might just be how they define it here. But I'm not, familiar with that terminology outside of it.
Type 1 is greater than 45 feet in height. Type 2 is less than or equal to 45 feet in height.
Chris, are you doing Adobe and adding comments into yours? That's what I'm doing too.
I love you techie people. I like my pen.
I do too, but I can't spell. So you'd be getting stuff.
I took shorthand in high school.
I too.
Guys would like for me to do that on the screen. I can. I just don't know.
I think we can do is maybe learn to read time. Because I just copied the definition into a comment, so I know it's there. But that's why I brought this.
Okay.
Because I can.
And it's also any communication tower and antenna combination greater than 70.
I just don't really do
Numbers when it's
it.
commercial. So there's height and non-commercial there. Type 2 is any of the following which are owned and operated on. So it's also non-commercial, including amateur ham radio and other communication enthusiasts.
So we kind of took out
Towers less than or equal.
the type 2 by exempting that already.
Great, thank you.
Right, that's part of the exemption.
That's part of the exemption, so I don't think we need to
Add that.
add that into
I
ours.
don't think type 2 is part of the exemption. Because that's wireless communication facility type 1 and type 2. Then there's also wireless communication facility small cell, which is then really defined very specifically based on this whole cubic feet stuff. So like a small cell facility would not be a 45-foot tower. It would be a very different looking animal.
Right. What I was saying though is that under our exempt facilities,
Sorry.
no, I didn't make that very clear. Under our exempt facilities, we basically have the type 2
Listed.
FCC licensed amateur radio facilities up to 70 feet in height.
And then.
So I feel like that,
letter C is about the antenna attached to existing structures,
Yeah,
which somewhat is the small cell. That's
but I think though that
And-
we need to go ahead and cover small cell though, because in the case of that it is a freestanding, but I think that we still need to include the small cell, because I agree with you, like that antenna part covers it. But I think we need to include that whole definition, because if it is freestanding, but it still falls within those parameters, then it should still be exempt. So that's where I think that we need to include the definition of small cell facilities.
So you want to include the definition in as the exempt facilities or in definition?
In definitions, and then we'll add it too. So Lance and Chris and whoever else is online, sorry. Is there anything that, if you guys can see what we have pulled up for the definition that Park County has for small cell facilities, from your professional perspective, does that seem like it covers a definition of a small cell facility? Is there anything that we should add to that, in your opinion?
As I understand it, the definition of a small cell facility by the FCC is less than 50 feet. And so I think I'd advise you to kind of follow their definition of it.
Perfect. Okay. In regards to, and I'm sorry, I'll just completely expose my ignorance in regards to these small cell facilities, but it talks about the cubic feet in volume. Does all of that seem like pretty close to what you would consider? I mean, is that pretty applicable?
Be able to see it.
It requires, if that's not typical language, it probably requires some mathing to do what that actually plays out.
Yeah,
17 cubic feet.
that's
is
what I'm
not-
like.
it's at the Ridian.
Within an imaginary enclosure of no more than 3 cubic feet.
And Lance, when you say 50 feet, no more than 50 feet, would that, since these are commonly attached to structures, is 50 feet the structure plus antenna? Or are you saying
No,
50
total height, less than 50 feet.
total?
I'm not sure about the cubic feet. I've not seen any specific restrictions within the FCC's language regarding that.
Okay.
And for instance, I'm at a telecommunications conference in Vegas, and what they do a lot in Vegas, if you guys have ever walked down the strip, there's a lot of light poles and things like that the cell companies down here mount and antennas and equipment on to provide coverage to the groves of people walking the street.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying there is I'd find it hard pressed that there's some cubic feet restrictions in at the federal level. And so probably some more research would be required for me to give you an answer on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would agree. And that's I was just thinking to myself. So definitely before our next meeting, I think we definitely need to look up the parameters that what FCC regulations are.
I'm wondering too, in that municipal document, what definitions are in here as like, this is more of this generic. I know there are definitions. Oh, here. Is this up right now, small wireless. Oh, wait, that's small wireless facility though. It's not good. We can look at what it is though. Yeah.
And the only thing I know on cubic feet are refrigerators.
Right here. So this, this right here is the cubic feet. Interesting.
So they just wanted to be something.
It's almost like they took it from this.
And that has the,
What is that
This
document?
is the document that is in the agenda packet. That's like that sample,
Mhm.
right,
Um,
municipality code.
yes, the model code for
So then,
municipalities.
yeah,
This
it's
was, I
exactly.
guess, by the FCC Broadband Deployment Advisory Committee Model Code for municipal.
So they just filled in blank cubic
Yeah.
feet on both of those, but that is, yeah.
And I think for an example, I think there's one possibly on top of the Stockman's building. And it just got me thinking of it that like I think there's one that's kind of a small thing that's like on the roof. And-
There is.
And I feel like this would almost fall, that one would like fall in this category.
Mhm. In fact, I think, Chris, is that a union,
It's a union.
I
think.
believe,
Oh, it's, let me
on
think.
top of Stockman's?
I'll have to check. I don't know how, and maybe see how they classify that. Yeah, it's as far as the restrictions or size there, it's not something I'm deploying like right now, so I don't know if I have a specific opinion one way or another. It probably gives you something to work with, and you could start seeing if they come in and say, hey, we need something bigger, then maybe the restrictions are too small. But I think, yeah, a little bit more research on that is probably needed if it is going to be restricted by size there.
Yeah.
And I think the facility on the Stockman's building, I think that was removed several years ago when Union placed that tower up toward the museum. I could be wrong on that, but
No,
Oh, no, maybe it was though, because it's Verizon and Union up there. I just remember when I was with the town, they had to get multiple permits for that. I remember, but I'm like, you could be right. It could be off of there now.
yeah. Okay, so before the next meeting, we will look to, we'll do some more research on the definition of small cell. And then is everyone, we're not voting on this today, but is everybody on the same page that when we do get that definition, that we're gonna use that as an exempt facility? when
Yeah.
We do define that.
Yeah, I think we need 2 or 3 things defined and then so that we can handle them appropriately, right?
Yes.
I wanted to share this.
and if I may, I found one more. I'm sorry. I found one more piece about small cell facilities. They specifically defined as less than 50 feet above ground level or 10% above the adjacent structures. And this was some language about, height variances in zoning districts.
You said less than 10%. Sorry, Lance.
Or 10% above the adjacent structures. It was some case law related to small cell sites and variances related to zoning districts. For instance, they wanted to deploy a small cell site in the height zoning district, where the maximum height for the zoning district was 30 feet. They were allowed to go 10% above whatever the zoning district height was to ensure propagation of their RF signals.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that addition.
I just wanted to point out too, that in our current code, in case we are changing anything, it does say in here that radio or TV antennas, that this section right here about exceeding the 6 feet does not exceed 6 feet of the maximum height. So we do have something in here, just that in case we need to take that out when we're
Or
doing
change it to
this,
the
or change
10%.
it or something while we're at it.
I mean, 10% would be 6 feet in ag. It'd be less in residential if we decided we wanted this in residential. 3.5 feet, so 6 feet. What's the highest? And I think industrial will have the highest building height.
50 feet.
Oh, 50, so it's not the highest. Ag's the highest.
But you're right, ag is 60.
So 6 feet across the board would be generous in all zoning districts.
Mhm.
But if there's something about FCC saying 10%, if that, I'm not sure where that came from, but we might want to do that just to,
Mhm.
Oh,
um,
where did you find that? Is that weird?
Mhm.
Sorry, and I think that 6 feet comes from some regulation called OTARD rules, over the air reception device. And I believe it says 6 feet for the single facility, single domicile use of over the air reception devices, is I think where that language come from.
So much more than you would think.
this would
That goes
be good to
into
have a
this.
consultant.
Good to have an attorney who knows specifically this.
Okay, so I think, just to keep this moving, before next meeting, we definitely need to specifically look into small cell and what we want to define that as.
Yep.
And then in changing that and any other sections,
Mhm.
i.e. definitions. So we need to change in order to define that, and then it will be an exempt. Is everybody in agreement?
Well, it'll be an exempt and we'll have to update. We'll just have to be more precise in our language to make sure we're matching the right term in the right place. Like in section 1, instead of saying wireless telecommunication facility, we would say whatever the more precise term is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Everybody, any more comments on section 2 before we move on to section 3? Any comments in the room? Oh, Mr. Christensen.
Just a little wordsmithing here in section 2, subsection 2A, the exception applicable ham radios. I think who's licensed is the operator, not a facility. So I would recommend changing the language to say facilities owned or operated by FCC licensed amateur ham radio operator. Thank you.
I suspect we'll change that to whatever our new definition
The new
is. I'm guessing, like,
definition.
yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a ignorant question, and I know it's ignorant.
There's no.
Oh, yes, there is.
Question.
What is a satellite station? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I assume satellite.
I'm just, when you said, are we?
I was thinking, do you think that might be like Starlink?
Could it be? Is that it?
I was gonna say a dish and then I'm
Google.
like, oh wait.
No, dish is
Going
separate.
to.
A
I
satellite.
did a couple other things. I was doing other things. Relation to the court.
I
I'm
think
pretty
it-
sure I have one of those in the backyard of my old house. Like it's like 20 feet around,
Because I'm thinking that's.
I
what-
know.
and it was super cool. And you could,
It's, I mean, I just Googled it and it looks like it's just a very large satellite dish. basically.
Okay.
Like when you used to do.
Like the old time, yeah.
Yeah.
the old
That's what we
one.
think of.
Yeah, that is what they are.
Okay.
Old school. I do have one of those at my house.
What are you doing with it?
Oh, there you go. Is it?
Hanging out in my backyard. I don't know what to do with it.
I don't like those. I mean, are they even out anymore? Are they even usable? Do
I
people
don't
even-
think so.
I don't think they really do use.
They're used by like in more industrial
commercial.
sorts of, yeah.
I know they're used on antennas, but they're a lot small. Okay, all right, thank you.
I
That's all
mean, I don't know. We have experts that can tell us, but I
have nothing more.
don't think they're used by people in houses these days.
Yeah. Okay, online, is there any questions or comments on section 2 before we move on?
No, was there anything in the union letter specific to that?
Not that section.
Okay.
Yeah, the next one is 2.6.
Exempt, oh wait, there was about exempt facilities, wondering, okay, don't, we already talked about that, you're right. Right,
Yeah,
okay.
we're good so far. And just to clarify too, in case everybody didn't hear this when we started, what we're discussing tonight is not our final decision. We're just basically kind of running through all of this, just talking it out. And then at the next meeting, maybe possibly next 2 meetings, depending on how far we get, then we'll make more for the decisions. So I don't want anybody to think that like this is the end all be all. So if you go home this evening or later this week and you find some things that you have questions or comments on, it's not too late. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page with this process, that this is more of a workshop, that we're working through this. So we greatly appreciate and welcome any questions or comments for the next time, little being.
Did we ever get Chase back or no?
I don't think so.
He doesn't have reception.
Oh,
Happened to talk to him about that yesterday.
okay, all right.
That's how I know he's on the road.
I was just curious if we were not hearing from him and we should.
I can't.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to section 3, or number 3, I'm sorry, section 2, number 3. Applicable facilities. All towers, poles, support structures, antennas, and related equipment shall be subject to the following regulations. A, all poles or towers exceeding the maximum height limit of the affecting zoning district shall require a height variance. B, all commercial towers, antennas, or arrays shall require a conditional use permit, building and development permit, and if applicable, a height variance. C, all private tower, antenna, or array meeting all the applicable requirements of this section will be permitted with a building and development permit. And D, antennas attached to utility poles and streetlights in the right-of-way shall not extend more than 10 feet above the highest point of the pole structure.
I don't love the height variance thing. I mean, I think just wondering, because I mean, actually, it's unclear actually what we mean when we say a height variance there. Like, do we mean a variance permit or whatever? Or do we mean, because I don't think, as we've discussed, I don't think variance is the right tool. So I remember Lance said that in the other counties they work in, it's kind of just, it's part of the CUP application. If, even, whether it exceeds the height or not. So if we were going to go that route, it would not make sense to put a height limit on it. We would just consider it as part of the CUP application. I don't know that I love that either.
Lance, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. The small cell thing, I'd comment on that again about the 10% over, and you kind of address that there. You can't require a variance for small cell sites based upon federal preemption. And there's also some other regulation related to co-location of carriers on existing sites. They're allowed to go 20 feet or forget the percentage, maybe Chris knows that, without additional permitting.
Chris, do you know?
Let me see if I can get that, but yeah, there is a, if you're within a certain percent of the existing, then it goes through, I guess, a different process. You wouldn't have to go back through the CUP process again for that. So I'll see if I can get that, or maybe put that on the research list, so we have that definition correct.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And I just want to take a quick minute to thank you guys that are online for this input, because again, this is something that is completely out of my wheelhouse. And so we really appreciate your input and your expertise on this, and taking the time out to help us out with this, because this really is a big deal. And we appreciate you guys working with us. And like I said, lending your expertise in this whole process. I know that you guys probably have better things to do on Thursday night than do this, but I am very, very grateful for you guys to be online. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, we appreciate the ability to be able to be a part of this process.
So then that's good info. Well, let's look into that, but then excluding those, because those are specific instances, excluding that, I guess the question for us is, do we, I think if we say you just have to include the height, we then it's silly to put a max on it. But I'm not sure I love that route either. I mean, I'd like to encourage, incentivize staying within the max heights of zoning districts. But I just don't know, do we have another tool? I don't think variance is the right tool to use when it exceeds. So I can't think of another tool that makes sense. Other CUP does make sense.
Right.
To
Yeah.
just have it be blanketed within that process somehow.
Of the CUP.
Yeah.
Right. But I think if we were, I mean, let's say that, what we will find is if we don't have something about the height of the zoning district being a part of the criteria, we could never have a legal basis or regulatory basis for denying an application based on height. So I think we need some sort of mechanism. If we think that we're likely to, I think it's likely that height is a criteria that may factor in under certain circumstances. And so if we think that's true, then we're going to need some sort of mechanism within the regulations to be able to use that as a tool when we need to. Just not sure. I mean, we could create something called a height variance that is different than a regular variance.
Specific towards towers, maybe something.
Right.
Would you even need part A? I mean, does part B cover it?
Well, that's what I was just looking at too. I guess part A is just covering anything that's non-commercial.
Right.
But
Yeah. It seems like those could be merged.
yeah,
I think so too.
I think I would need a little bit of wordsmithing, but
a word. Yeah, I agree. Better wording,
Yeah.
but we're gonna put that down to merge. But better wording.
So would you guys be able to explain to me too, what is our development permit? Discussed here.
Building and development
I mean, I
permit.
think it's really just building permit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of our wordsmithing that we need to pizzazz that.
I don't even know about.
No,
Oh, there probably are some. But
I mean,
Right,
I don't know. We don't deal with permits, so
right.
I mean those permits.
It's all on you.
I feel like it's a building permit. I don't think I'm not aware of like what development permit this would fall under unless there's something in our new proposed code that talks about development
I
permits.
don't think so. I don't remember anything like that. I could be
Okay.
wrong. But earlier, Haley, you mentioned 6 feet. Said something about 6 feet. Where did you see that? Where's that?
That's in our current code.
Under our height.
It's under the
Yeah.
current code where you're allowed to, it's just listed within our height restrictions on the current code.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
I was wondering if that was in here.
So would we need to change that to 6 feet instead of 10 feet? Or the 10%?
That's-
D is specific to things that are attached to utility poles and streetlights, which I think Lance
In the
spoke to.
right of way.
Lance, if that would likely, if I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle that Lance has laid out here for us, be a small cell, which he's proposing, and we should verify this, but he's proposing that would not be something that we have the authority to get a ask for a variance on. So I think depending on our findings there, that may go away, or I guess that's a
Yeah.
different thing than a general height restriction.
Right. So.
But that A, B thing basically covers well, I guess it doesn't say what the height is. It just says that if it exceeds it, doesn't it?
I do think though that 10% or that is not related to utility poles and streetlights. We should include that somewhere, or
But
like
that would
6
mean
feet.
that would say you're not exceeding the height. That's basically a permissible height where you wouldn't need to get any
Exactly,
sort of.
where you wouldn't need to get any sort of permit.
Mhm.
But where are we including? Would that just be under like within the microcell? Or,
I think that would be smart to put in here somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just use some of this very similar language that we have in our current code.
Seems like a general provision. It should go under the general provision section.
For the exempt facility. Almost like that,
Right.
you're right, the exempt facility C.
Right.
It's almost like that's,
That's for the purposes and uses solely for occupants of the building to which the antennas are attached, as long as the maximum height limits of the zoning districts are not exceeded.
And we could make it a sub-bullet of 3 applicable facilities. And just make it an explicit statement that say all towers may exceed max height without the need for permitting by 6 feet or whatever we choose to say, 10%, 6 feet there. I think that would work.
Mhm.
and these are ones though that are attached. It's radio, TV antennas, aerials, chimneys, vents, and roof mounted mechanical equipment. So it would have to be like attached onto a structure.
Would that be? It's not like a hamburger. We're just saying
Especially
generally.
Porterville, like in someone's garage.
Yeah,
Just
that was.
people have it where instead of putting a tower up, they're just attaching it onto a building versus a whole new structure. I know, would that be a small cell? Now I'm
I don't know.
not sure.
I think it would.
It would fall.
I mean, that's what I would,
Cell is covering that kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So maybe.
No, you're good.
But I think it would be good to have that. We definitely need to get that definition in here and make it clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of when you can exceed that height limit without having to go through another CUP process or
Right.
a special process.
Yeah. So the best thing I can think of right here, right now, we should just think about this is like, if we want to create something called a height variance, which is separate from a regular variance.
Well, like I said,
I think we should hold off on making that decision right now because once we get further into this, it talks
maybe
about
we're
what
gonna
the
dig into it.
it talks about what the requirements are.
Okay.
And maybe once we start diving into the requirements, that might help
Yeah.
us figure out what.
So let's keep height variance on our radar
Okay,
as we work through this.
sounds good.
Just for the notes, so the FCC section 6409A is where if you're within, I guess dictates the review time on kind of major versus minor improvements or modifications to the tower. So that's where if you're within 20 feet, it qualifies for a specific review time. I think it's 60 days per the FCC. So that's where that 20 feet extension or increase is within that window there.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you want to just note that 6409A for any research or
Yes.
definitions there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so one thing I want to clarify to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So this is essentially saying that anything that is commercial will require a CUP. But if it's private, as long as it meets the requirements of the zoning district that it's in, then it does not require a CUP. Is that correct? Am I reading that right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't,
But you have to have a building and development permit.
With the building permit,
permitted with a building
yes.
permit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you don't have to have a CUP as long as it's private and not commercial.
Private tower tenant exceeding all applicable requirements of this section will be permitted. The building.
Can we take out the development?
Yes, taking out development. Yes, we're taking out development on both.
well,
of
yeah, and
those.
just note all private tower, antenna, or array. Yeah, I'm wondering, those are not capitalized. Do we mean something different than?
Do they require a CUP now?
Well,
Probably.
i-
I mean,
If you call it a public facility and it goes, then yes.
yes, if it,
So maybe.
And that's
to
what
be
we're-
merged.
right, so I guess that's what we need to decide is if it's non-commercial, do we want to require a CUP?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that we expect not to do a CUP on, I can't remember what we were thinking. I'm not sure that we even discussed this specific point. This was if it's not in red, it's language that existed, which means it came from that consultant. And we didn't we may not have discussed it, but you know, we I remember talking about, obviously we don't, and we exempt like ham radio sorts of stuff, and we don't intend that's, I mean, we couldn't if we wanted to, but no, we didn't want to have anything to do with permitting that or CUP. But it seems to me that, yeah, if someone wanted to build a private tower that was essentially equivalent to a commercial sort of tower, we would want that to go through a CUP process.
So I'm thinking, if you merged B and C, like all commercial towers, private tower, all commercial towers, private tower, antenna arrays or whatever, meeting all the applicable requirements, this section or shall require commission, anyway.
Yes,
do
just-
both of those.
So actually you can merge A, B, and C.
Yeah. Because
So-
basically, when you say all commercial and you want to include a private tower or don't wait, I don't know.
Hey, like what? I'm scratching my head, like
Why
what?
we paid someone money to do this? That's what I'm wondering.
Or all towers.
Right,
Where
just
it's
all,
Right, I know when you're
Say
saying
all
that, I'm
towers.
thinking too, but I agree. All
All
towers.
towers.
Yeah.
Antenna arrays shall require conditional use.
I'm
permit,
just
building
wondering
permit.
what kind of a private tower, what's somebody doing that they're putting up a big ass private tower?
Right, some people
Well,
would put
maybe-
up their own, like, they might put up their own towers for wireless
I have no
communications. I mean, there are
Okay.
private sorts of things like that.
Yeah,
Because right now we have where everything has to come through us.
right.
So why wouldn't we?
We just
And it-
put it. Lance, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry if I may. I think some of this may have come from some conversation I had with Bart quite a while ago, because there was a trend where individual property landowners were putting up stuff in order for them to get wireless communications from us. And that was back before there were so many options. And so I wonder if some of that fueled why this is here. And I would pose the question to you folks about that. All commercial towers, all towers make some sense. But then the additional language of antennas or arrays, that's including those. And so is that your guys' intention to require a permit for an antenna being installed on a structure? Because the way the definition is,
I think we need to use whatever language we use in our we need to be precise here and use whatever definitions we have should be what's there, like whatever we intend. So if we have something called, if we have a definition for tower, that we intend tower, or if we have a definition for wireless communication facility type 1 or whatever it is, that's what should be said there, I think.
But we've already excluded antennas and arrays from the small cell facility, right?
Well, and from an antenna attached to an existing structure on C.
Yeah, I
for
don't
the
think we,
purpose and use of solely for the occupants of the building. So like that would exclude like a TV antenna.
Yeah.
And let me give you guys kind of an installation that we see a lot, especially in Sublette County. You know, we have service at the main house on a piece of property, but they would like service in their barn or in their guest house or other buildings on the property where we will install additional hardware that connects those additional buildings. And that's actually more common than you might think in Sublette County.
Yeah.
what do those typically look like? Are those like what aesthetically, does that look like a ham radio sort of thing, or is it bigger or smaller? Or?
It would look very similar to anything you would find under a small cell facility. They're really small panel antennas, typically, something that I don't think anyone even notices.
Yeah, I don't think we intend to
So-
include that in the things for CUPs.
Mm-mm.
So if you had,
Building permits.
you know, that RP or whatever, all towers shall require conditional use permit building or conditional use permit, building permit, and if applicable, a height variance. And the next one, all private antenna or array meeting all of the applicable requirements of this section will be permitted with a building.
I think you're saying, Haley, you don't necessarily want to do a building permit for that either, right?
Or
So-
just will be permitted. Yeah.
Or just take, I just feel like we just need to take antenna or array out of there
Yeah,
and just say,
we're just dealing with towers.
I would just say just dealing.
Isn't it, I mean, it seems like the exempt facilities, like 2C addresses
Right,
that. Like, do we need
addresses.
to say anything more than,
Yeah,
like, maybe we can just strike C altogether?
strike C. I think so.
Straight C, and then for B, take out commercial
Mhm.
and antennas or arrays.
Take those out.
Yes,
Okay.
And development.
and
Yeah,
development.
That's right.
We should capitalize towers because that will be a defined term.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so again, this is another section that we will come back and address kind of what our feelings are on height variance. And we also will do more research into regs from FCC, specifically the one that Chris referenced before we come back to this.
Can I ask a quick question? Now I'm looking at this and like D,
She doesn't look.
does it belong here
I
in
was
this
looking at
section?
myself.
Does
Well,
it
this,
belong in this section, or it's not saying what's required with it? It's just,
I think it's gonna be, that would be covered by, it sounds like that's small cell to me. So I think when we have 2 or 3 definitions, those things will go here. Like, cause this is what
oh,
there,
in this.
this is called
section.
applicable facilities, and it basically says these types of facilities are subject to these regulations. So I think we say this, this definition that we come up with here is subject to this, and if it exceeds the height, if we have something called a height variance, it must go through the height variance. So it's just saying which things
Okay.
have to meet which regulations.
Okay.
So I think we don't, not having those definitions puts us at a disadvantage at this moment in time, but
Yeah,
So what are we
but it's
saying
something we're working towards.
with D though? It's not saying, all it's saying is it shall not exceed 10 feet. Is a permit needed, or we're not mentioning that where we did with the other ones?
I think it depends on what we find out about what both our stance about small cell is, and then
Okay.
whether we do or don't have rights to do things around it.
Yeah, and that again, the reference, the FCC.
Like if our
regulation.
and if we have a development standard or a definition for small cell that defines all of the height stuff, then
Then,
that we don't need to call out the height, because that's not under this that wouldn't make sense under this section.
right,
Okay. Okay.
So we wouldn't put it in.
I suspect we may not put it in the
just
end.
depending on our final definition of like the small cell, because like that would fit under small cell.
Okay.
Mhm.
Presumably, it would. So once we get that definition, then we can circle back around to see if
So
we
then
even
do you
need
need to
anything in there.
change 3? All towers, poles, support structures and antennas? If you're not even
Oh,
gonna talk about
yes.
antennas?
Yeah, it's kind of this weird little section now that.
Yeah,
Because see, that's where if you want it, to the following well, maybe there is a regulation on antennas, but less than 10% above adjacent structures. Maybe that is the appropriate place to put it.
Not sure we even need this in the whole section, actually.
Right.
Because general provisions number 1 will say these things are the thing, it says are only allowed by conditional use permits. That's all we're saying in that section anyway. And then exempt facilities is going to exempt small cell. If we exempt small cell,
Then
it'll
everything
exempt
else.
antennas and arrays if we exempt those.
right.
This seems redundant. I don't think we even need this section if we do that.
See, I was gonna say that. but
I will say, once you start going through it more, you'll see, I felt confused about even the discussion of permits where I think it would make sense to have that all in one place.
Okay.
What's
Okay.
required with the permits, when a permit is required. In one place, but it seems like it's a little bit scattered.
Scattered, so we might want to consolidate.
Okay, so I'm making notes, can possibly delete all
Kind
of
of strike section.
section 3 or condense it.
Right, where it could just be another sentence. Or
Mhm.
like where it's just not, we don't need the bullets anymore.
Pretty much anything that's not exempted.
Okay, so that's what this section would be, anything not exempted, and we would provide that in here. Okay.
But I'm not, that's essentially what section 2, part 1 says though.
Right.
The only thing it doesn't say is the thing about a height variance. So, I think we could put that under general provisions too. That could just be another sub part of general provisions where we just say, anything that exceeds blah, blah, blah must go through this process. I don't think we need that whole section 3. That's confusing.
Okay.
Okay. Number 4, effective permit. A permit from the county authorizes an application to undertake only the activities specified in the application and permit and in accordance with this section. A permit does not authorize attachment to or use of existing poles or other structures in the right of way.
I don't even know what that means.
A permit, we got other than to take only the activities specified in the application permit. Well, I mean, that makes sense to me. That first part, like you can't. But this then brings up the question about I think that would be like, what's the threshold or trigger for when they would need to come back and ask for a permission to do something outside the scope of the application and permit.
So I guess what's throwing me off is a permit does not authorize attachment to or use of existing poles or other structures in the right of way. So
Like Chris said, though, is that just saying that if you do anything addition beyond what you permitted for,
okay,
yeah.
It does
That's
seem
not
weird to
specific.
call specifically.
It's called
'Cause-
just the right of way.
because I guess the way that I read it,
Oh, in the right of way, though.
In
Is
the
that
right of way.
Right of way, is that like
Roads. like-
roads? So maybe that is more specific, yeah.
I mean, but it seems like that would be part of an application if that would be considered. This seems to be saying, the first part says you can't do things that you didn't say you were going to do in your application, and the second part basically says it, but in a much more specific way.
But it
which
says you
seems odd.
can't attach anything to whatever your pull was permitted for in a road or extend out. I mean, it's pretty specific about the right of way, right?
Yeah. I mean,
If I may,
yeah.
I think this is
great. Yep.
language.
Go right ahead.
I think this is specific language to small cell facilities. It's saying that the permit doesn't authorize the attachment to poles in the right of way, which is typically governed under a franchise agreement or an attachment agreement with like a utility company such as Rocky Mountain Power. And so I think it's just spelling out that permit doesn't give the permittee permission.
That makes
so
sense.
that someone wouldn't say, well, Sublette County told me Rocky Mountain that I could do this
could do
on
that.
Rocky Mountain Power's stuff.
And should we specify that? Make that a little more clear? That makes more sense.
Yeah.
though, Once you. To me, it's just cards.
But that, I feel like this verbiage is awful, though. If that makes sense, that's great perspective. I would not have read it that way.
Yeah, I was struggling with that too. That does make sense though.
But I feel like if we want to leave something like that in there, we have to reword that because that's awful.
It is. I
Well,
almost
how would you
think,
reword it?
I don't know.
Because a permit from the county authorizes an applicant to undertake only the activities specified in the application and permit and in accordance with this
permit.
section.
Why can't you just say you can't do anything but what your permit tells you?
Permit
I mean,
I just said it.
I'm confused why we even say that, because that is every permit in the county.
Right.
You are only supposed to do what your.
What your permit says.
I just-
So could we just,
Strike the whole section.
that's what I would say.
What about the right of way though?
You can't,
That might be,
but your.
But I
permit-
mean, your
Like a
permit,
Like we wouldn't permit that because we can't, right? That's not our thing to permit on someone else's.
within the permit, you're gonna have to specifically
Right, you have
cite
to
where
ask for
you're
that.
putting your equipment
Right.
or your antenna.
So that would mean, I mean, I guess that's kind of like a hearing sort of thing that we would need to be on the lookout for. Is this infrastructure that you want to put this thing owned by you or by Rocky Mountain?
Right,
Or
yeah, if it's an existing structure and you're like co-share or.
maybe that's like on the application or something. But it seems
Well,
obvious.
if I may,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and this is one of those things that we run into sometimes is we have to have a permit to build this, but before we go through the process of a lease to attach to a pole, we want to make sure that we can get regulatory approval. And so sometimes there's which one comes first, the permission from the county or the town or the permission from the other utility. And it's usually whichever one has the least cost.
Would that sentence mean anything to you, Lance? I mean, would that have, if we struck a permit does not authorize attachment to or use of existing poles or other structures in the right of way, would we be running afoul of something, or is that an important sentence to have in these regulations?
I think if it's not there, someone might be able to interpret it as the permit does authorize them to some sort of authorization. So for instance, if there's a pole utility, something that someone wants to mount that is within the county's control, they might assume that the permit gives them that permission. I can't say that I can think of anything offhand that would apply to this, but you could see how that could come up potentially.
Okay, well, it seems like if that's the case, we strike the first sentence and reword the second one, then maybe the section is not effective permit, but like, I don't know, scope of permit or something about
Yeah,
in ownership of, I don't know, something or other. It seems,
it's kind of like the warning
Really
label.
needs to go be its own
Tell
special
people,
line.
like, don't eat this.
And it's all-
just a general provision, just put it under general provisions. Oh, it is under general provisions. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Right.
Yeah, maybe we just call it application of permits and right of way, and then it.
but is this, I have a question and maybe you guys, if I'm reading this a different way. So somebody or some entity gets a permit and they have this tower. And they think, well, since then they can put on their tower additional things, right? Is that what we're saying, to authorize attachment or use of, can they put anything additional on the existing poles? Thinking that, well, I have this under my name and maybe I can just keep putting stuff on it.
I think that's between the franchise. Like-
Well, and
I
that,
don't know.
that also goes back to where we talked about, gosh, my goodness. I was old now, where we talked about modification,
Yeah, there was that.
where did we talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and number one, commercial building permit is required for construction, modification, reconstruction, or addition of equipment to a site. So that's where we need
It
to,
must demonstrate compliance
yeah,
with regulations.
So let's just expand on that. And just,
And not,
I mean, she.
section 2, line 1.
so Why can't we just say the permit does not convey any rights of access attached to or otherwise use existing poles or other facilities right away? And add that to that.
Yeah, add that last sentence to the number one.
I was like, that sounded
Yeah.
fancy. Yeah, like that's
Yeah, that's exactly.
conveyance of rights. That sounds like some legal.
This is ChatGPT.
I just think this is interesting too.
Amazing.
It's going to this, it's more making me think there's so many other regulatory agencies out there. And I am like, when someone comes in for a building permit, like we don't always see the wetland permits. We don't always see the Army Corps of Engineer permits. I'm like, it kind of falls under the same thing of it's your responsibility to do your due diligence of other
Right.
requirements. And I'm like, here we are specifying just one of them when I'm like,
There's a boat road.
How
like,
do you do, I agree.
that's my thought is it just is getting me thinking
So-
more about like. big
I mean, is
picture.
it just something, it seems like it could be something on the application that basically just says you're agreeing that you're responsible for whatever the appropriate language is, but that basically, you're not violating someone else's rights and we're not giving you permission to build on other people's infrastructure sort of thing.
Does our
But I will say, I do tell people, I'm like, I have written on permits, if they are in a wetland or something, it is your responsibility to comply
Right.
with any other requirements. Yes, because it just is something that I'd love to see a copy of the permits, but that's not something that we are doing right now is like requiring.
Micromanaging.
Yeah.
And I think that's good.
Mhm.
So,
No, it adds an administrative burden for sure.
So going back to this, do you just want to add it to one of the definitions or delete it?
Add it to section 2.1.
yeah, let's just do that for now. Then we still have it and it's something we're thinking about.
Under general provisions?
Yeah.
So we're deleting
And
section four.
deleting that
Deleting 4.
to section 2.
So it's under 2.1.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to number 5.
Got Chase and I here, you would love deleting things.
I know, right? You'd be like, delete.
Well, I'm putting
Simplify
Chase in
everything.
quotes. When I delete, I just put Chase.
Chase. Yes. Number 5, application fees and bonds. All applications pursuant to this section shall be accompanied by requisite fees or bonds required by the county. Can we get rid of that? I mean, isn't that a given?
I do think having it somewhere to just say, but I don't know what our fee schedule, how that's been adopted. I'd like to just have a general resolution for all the fees. Where it is good to not have it specified in here so that we can adjust the fee schedule without
Right.
having to come back here.
That makes
Mhm.
sense.
I do think saying that there's a fee and a bond isn't a bad idea, but
Like, I'll make.
yeah,
chicken
is this the
scratch.
best place for it? Like, should this be with the permit discussion or just keep it there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in this matrix that you had, there was something about bonds associated with like reclamation or something. Do I remember that right? Is that like,
Yes.
which I did like that
I
and that
think it's a
came
good
up.
idea too.
So, would we say, well, that wouldn't speak to fees, that would just speak to the bond portion of that, I guess, but. Should it say shall be accompanied? It's basically just saying you gotta give us your money with your application, right? That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
Well, but the bond wouldn't be at the point of the application. I assume that would be like something that would happen through the approval of the BOCC or something.
Trying to think at what point it might have to be submitted, yeah, along the same line, because what if they don't approve it?
Like they'd have to probably just get a bond post approval. They're not gonna do it before as
Right.
part of an application process.
Mhm.
And then they'd have to show evidence that it was done or something
Before the building permit is issued.
before the building permit. Makes sense.
But maybe it's okay to leave it there.
Yeah, maybe
now.
it's okay for
I
now.
mean, just, you're hitting on it.
Yep,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of broad. It just says shall be accompanied, which doesn't necessarily, that could be interpreted in a couple of ways.
I do think we could adjust that to say that the bond is required before approval of the building permit. Whatever we decide that bond to be, but we can mention that here.
Right.
Do you set bonds?
I don't really know what the bond requirement is for other things like subdivisions sometimes have subdivision development. Right-of-way permits where if you're doing work in the right-of-way, sometimes there are bonds. I don't actually know what the county requirement is, but it's more to protect the county in
Mhm.
case during that warranty period, something happens.
Right.
And then that bond could be released. But I'm not sure exactly what we would establish this bond to be, but it's more in case it also needs to be removed.
Mhm.
And it's not removed by the permit holder, then the bond could be used to help remove it if it needs to.
Yeah, so that's under Park Counties. I was looking here and it says performance security / bond for removal.
Right.
And I guess, to be honest with you, I'm just not familiar. I've never been included in a situation that we've required a bond. I mean, not that we have, but the county.
I know road construction
Yeah.
requires bonds.
Yeah, I know that
Or
there
the county.
there are some. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. I guess I've just
But I
not,
don't know
like, I've
anything
never,
else.
yeah.
No,
But
Yeah.
and the bond amount would be associated or correlate to what's the cost to
Yeah.
complete the project, right? So that's going to be stuff that's only figured out later in the process.
Right.
Mhm.
And just for my own personal being, so does it go through planning and zoning or does that go just through the county commissioners?
I think it would be part of the permit application to establish what the bond would be.
Uh-huh.
And then the county commissioners would need to approve that as part of the CUP,
So you,
what the bond
so
amount.
you give a suggested bond? Is
I
that
think
how
we
that
would have
works?
to say in here
Uh-huh.
what the bond is related to the cost of construction.
Uh-huh.
So typically there are times where it's like, okay, the bond amount is, or what the amount, what the bond would be, the cost of construction to remove the tower. Something, we'd have to establish what the bond actually is for.
Right.
Well, could you say, and maybe this is too general, all applications pursuant to this section shall be accompanied by the requisite fees and or bonds required by the county explained in permit applications or something. In permitting or, I mean, I don't know if you need to go into all of that right now, if it goes into that in the application, but just so that it's in our code.
Right.
And that is a good point because we could, if we had a fee schedule, we could just have with the tower permit, we could establish what the bond is in that fee resolution. And this is the only place in this code where the bond is discussed.
Yeah, so I think,
It's pretty vague, though, when you
It
read
is.
this, and you're like, I don't know what I'm bonding.
but it gets more into
how-
specifics in the
yeah.
permitting,
So I think you're hitting on the right points there. Like the bond would be if the site is abandoned, that you'd have something to get rid of the tower at that point. And then as far as the amount, I think you'd submit a cost of construction at the time of the building permit, because at that point you'd be ready to head into construction, and then the bond would be set based on that.
So how long would someone hold a bond for? Like they'd have to have this bond for as long as the tower is there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Well-
different than a performance bond, right? It's it's like reclamation. It's not so like it's not, we want to make sure you're going to complete this project. It's,
Right.
we want to make sure. Yeah. I don't know how that
maybe
works.
it's like oil and gas.
Do they know?
Gas wells have a bond.
Right, they have like a reclamation bond similar.
And
Lance,
if you plug and abandon, then you use that bond. If you don't, that bond stays
that
there in
bond stays there.
perpetuity till you utilize it.
Right.
Plan?
Lance, go ahead.
Chris? Chris, are those bonds typically like in perpetuity if it's a reclamation as opposed to a performance oriented bond?
I'd have to check. I don't know if I know the specifics there, but I would assume it goes along with having a lease, for that spot. So I'll have to check the expiration or what that looks like there, but I believe
it's-
that would be in place so long as they're operating.
Right.
As long as they operate that lease.
Lance said that he can't unmute.
But I don't know if we have to go into all of that here.
Right.
Do you think?
I was looking at Park counties and.
There we are.
Oh, there we go.
Say
Uh,
like,
Thank you. So one of the comments I was going to add to that is, like with BLM and such, the reclamation cost estimate. So some, government entities will take an insurance policy in lieu of the bond. And you might also would, wish to add that sort of language in there as a dish, as something that would be acceptable.
Great point. Thank you.
And in Park counties, they talk about submitting it to the county engineer, but we don't have a county engineer, do we?
I can do this though.
You gotta find one.
I can do it. That's what I'm like. I don't mind doing this. Okay. I can do it.
So it would be come back to P and Z office then.
I think so. Just make it part of the CUP or part of the building permit
Yeah, the
process.
permitting process.
The
Really, it
permitting
should be
process.
this building permit process
Mhm.
because they might not have the cost estimate when they do the CUP.
Right.
So,
Chances are they probably won't.
yeah,
So yes, I think part of the
the
building.
building permit.
But it can be, introduced here in the
Here.
code. so
Just
they're
to,
aware.
I agree, definitely. Yes.
so maybe we just need to maybe just do a little better verbiage there, but leave it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it
And
there.
and definitely
And further or explained in permitting
Yeah.
applications.
And I
permit
like
applications.
Lance's idea of including or an insurance policy
Oh,
in
okay.
lieu of bond.
And,
So
and,
the-
and I might,
Okay.
sorry to interject there. I might also add that I question legal authority to require removal and bond of that. I think when you guys draft, however that's going to play out, you have to be really careful about that. It probably needs to be greater than where I'd seen reference further down there. Because the FCC does allow periods of time for things to become inactive and various things. And so probably some more review, especially with the county attorney, about what can be required there.
Super. That's great point, Lance. Thank you. So we need to refer to FCC regs as
So in-
to
Brass
Yeah,
plate.
Haley,
Brass Clayton. Yeah.
Haley just pointed out too in the Park County says performance security monitor annual air certification modification nor abandonment standards.
What is an IER?
Or where is that mentioned? The
So
I know
was
I
looking on
have
the
seen it,
FCC and they
though.
have
I've seen
it.
it.
Yeah, they have it in the FCC definitions too under surety and cash bond. The contractor applicant shall have on file bond or cash bonds for restoration of areas within a utility easement. This bond shall be a minimum, like,
But that's utility
And they-
easement.
I know, but I'm just saying you can still use that same language.
Right.
Okay.
Cause it's.
We
the
don't want to
quick-
get too hung up on
Right,
that really.
Okay. So I think if we definitely do a little more research into the verbiage of what we want in that section. Okay, with that being said, how late does everybody want to stay here tonight?
What time is it?
It's 8:05.
We haven't got even through page 2.
I don't know. This is,
well, and we're gonna be. We're only gonna be able to go so far because without those definitions put into place,
Right.
you kind of have to. Create yourself a stopping point, because you're just gonna talk about things that are gonna be corrected by those definitions anyway.
Right. Well, and it's good to put a stopping point.
Would you guys like us to just kind of talk about the comments we have so far? And then you guys could take those and utilize those as you're revisioning some of this?
Yeah, I
I think that's a good
I think
idea.
that is a very good idea.
I have some other comments. too,
Um,
Like,
yes. Uh, sorry, Chris. We were just discussing how late that we want to go this evening for starters.
Chris would like to go to
And-
10:34. 10:35 to extend from last
I know,
meeting.
let's not do that.
So we were just discussing this and, Chris was wondering if they could go ahead and, go over some of the
Oh.
comments specifically that they had sent in to us, so that we could definitely get all of these comments. And as we're continuing on our own reviewing this,
Yeah.
and they could clarify a few things, on that. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that, Chris. If you want to start, and then Lance, if there's anything that you, or anybody online, sorry, not limiting it, and Mr. Christensen, you as well. We'll give everybody some time. Yeah,
So what, can we decide what time we want to adjourn by?
yes.
Like,
Um,
What do you think about 9?
I think 9 is,
like to
Fair.
end the complete meeting.
Yeah.
And we probably should give ourselves a few minutes just to go over a couple other things towards the end.
So give this another half hour.
What is the time?
It's
It's
8:08.
8:10.
how about if we say we're done by 9, we'll end this conversation at 8:45. Sound okay? Okay. All right. So, if we want to start, we'll start with those online. Chris, if you want to go ahead and start, and then we'll go through anyone else that has comments online, and then we'll take comments in the room.
Yeah, I think from my side, I'd just like to make sure we go through the union comments here on the right. If there's any questions on those, or we want to make sure those are part of maybe the next discussion, so we can do some research behind what's needed there. So it looks like you had it up there. There was some comments from Tyler. I think we just want to make sure those are either addressed or considered as we move forward.
So for section 2, I guess part 6, co-location, it's your second comment, Chris. You mentioned that 3 antenna arrays would require 60 to 70 feet. What would 2 antenna arrays require, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so what he's saying there, at least 40 feet is kind of a minimum in order to get that coverage. So as you go up, each different carrier is going to be about a 10-foot buffer. And I guess you have a rad center of 10 feet to work within. So as you go 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and then 60 to 70 for 3, you could go down, I guess, to 60 if it's just 2. I think this comes into play more with if you've got limitations of the height, but yet you're also requiring 3 co-locators. That's why we may be requesting a higher tower, if we're submitting an application there.
If I heard you right, 40 to 50 feet for a single, 50 to 60 for 2, and 60 to 70 for 3 is what you said, right?
At a minimum, yeah, and it factors in with terrain and where exactly the tower is and kind of the goal of the coverage there. But I think Tyler's just in the comment, it's kind of establishing some height considerations when you
Right.
start
So-
adding more of requirements in there.
You need a 10-foot spread per appliance, essentially.
Correct. Yep. Per carrier. Yep.
10 feet between.
While we're on that section,
Mhm.
if I may, So promoting co-location aligns with what the FCC wants policy-wise, but making it mandatory as a condition of approval can conflict with their rules relating to shot clock and eligible facilities. It can be interpreted as an unreasonable barrier to entry. There was a court case, Crown Castle versus the city of Pasadena in 2019, that addressed this kind of stuff. And you can understand how it could be prohibitive if a carrier wants to build a small facility, but yet they're required to build a facility to house 3 other providers. It can unreasonably raise the cost substantially on that facility that would bar them from entering.
Okay.
I was curious, how much of a hassle is it to design it structurally so it could be added to in the future for height, and then the primary carrier move their facilities up 10 feet when someone wants to co-locate? I know that, I'm just curious. Like, to do that addition to the structure.
I'm sure you have to build your tower has to be strong enough to.
Yes, your tower has to be strong enough in order to support the additional.
Is that a thing, Lance or Chris?
The foundation has to be designed for whatever the overall wind loading of the facility is, and that height is included in that engineering. And so it is possible to engineer the foundation and the tower to be extended upon later, but it's particularly hard to fully account for what that resulting future structure might need to support.
And is it a substantial difference in cost for a 70-foot tower versus a 50-foot tower as far as the foundation, what you build?
I think it very well could be. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very variable and dependent on the specific spot, but it could be. You may also see, somebody goes in and gets it zoned approved for 100 feet, and they only build it 80 feet at this point, but then have the ability to extend it later should the need come. But I think to Lance's point, there is added cost to build a tower to certain specs that are more than someone may need. So just part of the factors there, I guess.
I was also curious if you're aware of any communities that you guys are doing work in where I saw in Teton County that one of the requirements is that you have to evaluate other sites, kind of an alternative analysis, but they also require a provider notification. Are there ever times where before you build a tower, you reach out to other providers to see, are you interested in having services in this area before you go into that design process?
Trying to think. I don't know if we have requirement. I mean, from a business perspective, that may be something they look at, but I don't know if I've seen that as a requirement. I do know as some of the federal agencies do require notifications, to other users in the area when a project comes up. But I think in general, every carrier provider kind of has their own design. So network design. So it comes down to whether or not somebody may be interested. But I think the key here is if there's a new tower, you'd build it to support more so that future carriers would have a spot versus building, more towers in the future. That's why that line is in there within reason, I think. As you get further away from that tower, it becomes harder to co-locate based on the network.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware of, the requirement of that. Usually the requirement to ask other carriers if you could co-locate, I've seen that, and I think that's okay. I think, requiring people to do that in the consideration process of building probably runs afoul with, you know, strategic plans, business models, things that carriers may not want to share with their competition.
So who gets this right though? I mean, what county gets this right? Because I'd say I've personally been frustrated by kind of getting the runaround from providers on who don't seem to want to co-locate. I think for those reasons, Lance, but I'm sure you can understand that, you know, Sublette County citizens, you're one of them. I don't know how you feel, but lots of others feel like they don't want, you know, that they want to put their interests before the interests of the commercial service providers, and they don't want to see towers all over the place. So,
And that's a perfectly fair point. Maybe some background on this would be useful. You know, part of the reason the FCC put shot clocks in and some of the preemptions they did is when we had 2G and then 3G was being deployed and then 4G was being deployed, the local barriers to construction and building out networks is what slowed the adoption of those technologies. And a lot of what the FCC was attempting to do with some of their preemptive and restrictions was to accelerate the deployment of these technologies. And you've seen the rhetoric in the political sphere about how, you know, other countries are beating us in this technology and that technology. And so that's where a lot of that kind of stuff is being driven from, is to remove the barriers to the adoption of the technologies. To speak a little bit about multiple towers, it's important to understand that there's only so much spectrum available. And because of co-location interference, the more equipment you have on a single tower, the more it degrades its own performance due to noise. And so that's often why you see carriers not wanting to co-locate, because the performance of their network tends to be better. And then each carrier has their own, you know, their own thinking as far as what they consider acceptable signal levels and performance for their network. You know, one provider might choose to run with fewer towers in a given area, while another one wants to have more towers and have a better service as a result of that. And so it's an interesting balancing act between everyone wants 5 bars, but no one wants a tower in their backyard.
right. Yeah, I guess it puts it puts the decision making on where the trade-offs lie in your hands, not the hands of the citizens, which is, I think, it is a balancing act. Because they might say, well, okay, I'm willing to have 5% worse service if we have, you know, less towers. I don't know, but I mean, I sympathize with your position in being a business and wanting to make strategic, both technologically strategic, but also financially strategic choices. But we also have to look out for the interests of Sublette County citizens. So well, let me go back to the original question. Is there a county that you feel like really nails this? I mean, that gets it right, that walks the line, that does the balancing act just right?
I don't have anyone specifically. It's such a moving gamut all across the board. We try to be good community partners, and in rare cases where we're forced to really push on policies, we do, but we try to accommodate the requests of the local boards and commissioners and so forth.
Tammy,
Yeah.
what was your question, ma'am?
Hey, Lance, we kind of touched on this out of the meeting, but just talking with Chris's question with the balancing act of, to me, co-location is just a word we try to use to make it sound like everything's amicable, but really it isn't, because everyone wants their own tower to be able to control their own service. And I get that, and I get the competition about it that comes with the business. How do we, I mean, have you had to co-locate with another tower? Or Chris, have you had to? I'm just wondering if we're just putting this out there so it sounds good, but it really is not feasible.
So we've certainly had to co-locate on facilities with other providers. Where the problem really comes to play is facilities that have a lot of high powered gear. For instance, most of us data folks, don't want to co-locate on the same towers or sites where high power broadcast antennas are. That causes a unique set of problems. And certain technologies, especially with CBRS and such, reduce the performance of the entire network if we do. But we have co-located where we needed to. But a lot of times, whether we have to co-locate or not drives decisions about where we'll expand our network or what technologies we'll deploy there.
I don't want to know about those behaviors because I don't understand them. Just with going from the 4G to 5G, um, and and co-locating just for that reason, it seems to me like this is information we should collect, but then again, it's something we don't understand.
Right. One thing too that I noticed just right off back, like we're talking about having these towers and just thinking that if we were to move forward with requiring them to accommodate at least 3 antenna arrays, and I think this is what their comment is getting at, they would have to be at least 60 to 70 feet tall.
Although it does depend on topography. I think that's a general state. If we're up on
Correct.
hill, it's probably not the same.
Right. But I mean, just simply with that saying though, do we want to go into this thinking that every tower that is put up has to be like, that's an unsightly
Or no one
requirement.
Someone might not co-locate it on it ever.
So you
or it
build
might
a
take-
70-foot tower? I mean,
Well, where did
Just
this
in
come
hopes
from?
of the future, they co-locate.
Where did this, and Chris, do you know? Because Holly, were you here 2 years ago when this was? Do you remember this? I was just kind of curious where that came from.
Carbon County. Good job, Steve. I just think that that's, like I said,
Yeah, I don't know if that
Such-
needs to be a requirement. Needs to be in consideration, attempts to try and promote
To-
co-location.
right, but I don't think it's our place to require that.
I had a general question. It's to digress a little, and it's a real simple question. I just want to clarify the shot clock. That's the time frame required to actually build the tower, correct? Is that what a shot clock is? Is the general, like the time frame, the days required to build a new tower?
I think that's more language for the review and approval from the jurisdiction.
So that's the time frame that we have.
Oh,
So
our
from the
shot
time
clock
that
is
they
us.
apply
Submit it.
to say submit it to come through us and through the commissioners and back to them to
Okay,
to
gotcha.
reach
It's like 90 days if it's under a certain height, 180 days if it's over a certain
Okay.
60 days.
Independent on the tower itself.
Okay.
What the commission- They said,
I don't know what to do. I mean, I feel pretty strongly about wanting to incentivize or give preference to co-location because I think it's something that we've thought about. I feel it's an area that I think could. There's just some, without, and I put no, not casting any shade on the providers here. I understand they're doing what's good for their business. I'm not saying that they would intentionally do something to give us eyesores in Sublette County, but I think it's just something to deal with. So I guess, Lance suggests that it may be, we may be running afoul of what we're legally able to do by requiring it. We may want to investigate that, see if that's true. we have this thing about, yeah, how high is it? If we do that, then does it, putting it at a certain height, do we prefer taller towers with more things on them? But have less towers, or do we want more towers that are lower height? Like that's the
Right.
trade-off, right?
Right.
Right.
I think that's something we can go out to the public too. And I'd be really interested
I
to
would
see
be
what
interested to
folks.
know what people would say.
I mean, to me, I think part of this process is to do surveys. Are just horrible to word, but it'd be really interesting to see what the residents think. Because so much has happened since the time that these were even constructed. I'm not gonna do the survey. I'm not gonna write it. They're too hard.
So you say, okay, well, we have 170-foot tower, or we have 340 feet.
Most people are fine
Interesting.
as long as it's not in my backyard.
Interestingly, I kind of did a
Yeah.
bunch of surveying in Big Piney, various areas, and I would be interested to do county wise. And it was more location than tower height
Sure.
is what came into, it was interesting. Nobody had too much of a problem with tower height, but the location was a big deal. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I found that kind of interesting.
Just like I submitted, I thought about the cemetery in Big Piney. 'Cause
Yes, it's a good
it's
idea.
really high, it's 350 feet higher. It's so much further away.
Yeah.
So it's not
But
ideal.
they're wanting to serve the southern end of that though, Tammy. That was I thought that was a good question.
So, but so if we said, you know what, you're right, we don't actually care about height, it really is specific circumstances, then we need to say, what are the circumstances that would dictate whether we cared or not, and then we have to make sure that they're in our regs. If not, we can't say yes or no based on this. So is it within a certain distance from residents? Is it? So I'm not proposing that's what we should say, because that's a can of worms right there, but it's like.
But just
We
clarifying.
need to come up with some basis, some logical.
Right,
basis.
but we did originally in the first provision is not to have it by residential areas and not to have it in scenic areas. And so where does that lie? Does it just lie in commercial areas? Where does that, I mean? But I do think it's something that public might be interested in answering.
Lance, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a couple of things to think about there. I'd encourage you to use phrases encouraged where technically feasible. And then something else just to think about, especially with this co-location conversation. If you have all the carriers in a single area co-located on the same tower facility, and then something happens to that facility, it gets struck by lightning, or for some reason the facility fails, you should maybe think about the gap of coverage that's going to make in that area. In an example, if Union, T-Mobile, and Verizon are all in the same facility and that facility gets damaged, you're not going to have any phone coverage in that area for any of the residents.
But I
That's
guess you were saying the broader
absolutely.
coverage.
Yeah, no, that's
That's a good point.
that is a great
broader
point.
Coverage.
Yeah.
It currently happens all the time.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go to a styrofoam cupping string.
Right.
So I don't know how we go into co-location.
I do think co-location though, one thing with the application as far as doing some sort of alternative analysis, I think one of the alternatives should be evaluation of co-location. And that could just be through, but that's more of the applicant. That it's part of that process, but it's not the design of the towers. It's more of that proactive instead of the reactive. I don't know.
Well, in our code, part B and C kind of talks about that, I think. Commercial wireless telecommunication service providers must not unreasonably exclude other providers from co-locating on the same tower when co-location is structurally, technically or otherwise possible. And then C, if a new tower is proposed, the application must include information regarding the availability of co-location space within the areas served by the proposed tower. If co-location space is available, the applicant must describe the reason or reasons why that space is not suitable for the applicant's purposes. So that kind of, I mean, you're kind of putting incentivized into researching co-location to begin with, and then they give you reasons why
They
they
can't.
wouldn't be able to.
Right. Which then, though, it's more right, where it's if we are requiring them to build the tower 20 feet taller to allow the co-location to begin with.
I guess
That's
maybe what we do is, I mean, I don't know where we're going with this. I sense that maybe where we're going is it is highly circumstantial. It's that like maybe and maybe that language that you just read does go into something around an alternative analysis thing. And we don't require a location. It's on what are the things that we think.
Mhm. Right.
It solve the problem.
Right.
right.
It's not gonna solve.
Or like maybe a leave space for one co-location provider versus 3, which maybe that 3 included, does that include the actual provider?
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
He is-
it's essentially 3 slots. I mean, it's like the provider might fill all 3 slots. I mean, I don't know if
Right.
that would happen or not. I've heard that before. Not that they have to have it from a provider. It keeps other towers from getting.
Do we want to go on to some of this other stuff?
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, so that was comment number 2. Yes. And Chris, just so that you know too, we do have a copy of all the comments that you guys submitted. And Haley, did you condense this down for us? That was great.
So it was originally in that
In that
PDF,
doc,
and I
yeah.
just put it
Okay.
here, so it's
Yeah, so Haley did submit all the, which, and we really appreciate it. It's very well documented. So just in case we don't get to all these comments, which I don't think that we are, but we have them all here. So I just want to assure you that they're very well documented and we will go through them as we go through each line item.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there any other comments online that just try to wrap this up a little bit just for tonight? Is there anything distinctively online that anybody would like to make a comment on at this time?
I could go through a few of the comments I had.
Okay.
And then you guys could just reference from there. So we dealt with 2.6, section 2.8, paragraph H. The applicant shall use stealth design to the maximum extent feasible unless otherwise approved by the county. It's just some ambiguities there. I think there needs to be better definitions there, and it kind of looked like Union touched on that.
Okay.
And then I kind of talked about section 2.16, the 2-year abandonment rule.
Mm-hmm.
A few things here. The county is going to have a hard time knowing if a tower is abandoned, to be perfectly frank with you. And then some of the conflicts here, FCC regulations allow temporary deactivation or repair periods, and federal license retention is not voided by inactivity. Automatic removal after 2 years could conflict with FCC spectrum licensing rights and the co-location order allowing reactivation without full re-permitting. And so I think there's some work there.
Okay.
Section 3.1. Small wireless facilities must obtain a conditional use permit and commercial building permit. We kind of touched on this already.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see. Section 4E 2 through 3. Tower shall be set back a minimum of 110% of the total tower height. Depending upon the tower height and such, especially in rural areas, could functionally prohibit service by making viable sites impossible to locate because of lot lines, structures, things like that. Generally speaking, fall zone contained on the property is what's required. And so there's a setback that, the tower can't fall on someone else's property. But because of the structure clause, that one could be seen as unreasonably prohibitive. We talked about the co-location piece.
Which one were you just referring to? You're talking about setback
Yeah.
F part 2, is that what you're saying?
E.
10%? So you're saying it should be 100%?
It also talks about any structure or house on the property. And so there's a few places in 4E. Let me go back here. There's also the discussion about within 1.5 times
Oh, yeah.
the height of the tower. And it also talks about any other towers. And you guys can think of towers around the county already: Mount Airy, Hogsback, Kismis Peak, which is up toward the rim. There's a number of places where there are towers to facilitate multiple services and carriers. And this restriction would prohibit carriers from, constructing very similar towers within a certain distance. And because of the space available on these mountaintops, would be a kind of a prohibition of service on some of these mountaintops.
We might think about either changing the language or might be a reason.
Yeah.
All right, I think you were moving on, Link, sorry.
That is certainly fine. Section 5C, in case of conflict between regulations, the more restrictive regulations shall apply. If a more restrictive local rule contradicts federal preemptions, the federal law must prevail. And so I think Section 5C probably needs to talk specifically about that. And then the county's code lacks timelines for processing applications. And then, of course, under federal law, there's 60 days for co-location, 90 days for new, 180 for macro. I think you guys need to include that language in your code. That was my list.
Thank you.
There's some overlap with the union.
That's super. Okay, is there anybody else online that has any comments that they want to add at this time? Okay, with that being said, Mr. Christensen, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Yeah. Absolutely, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in the room? Mr. Vickery, do you have any comments? Okay. Okay, so with that being said, is there any other comments right now from the board? Okay.
Wondering too, like I would like for all these comments to be together in one document. And I have unions comments that are based off of each section of the code. I feel like that's a good starting point, is to get it there, and then I can compile it based off of the actual section. But I'm like, as far as I feel like I have good notes from tonight, but if you guys have documents, and I think too, if you somehow could make your comments specific to the sections, then I could at least get it.
Steve's
Yeah,
really
together,
good about
okay.
making his comments
Okay.
specific.
To the section. I just think
Yes.
sometimes the general comments, it's great to have general comments, but now that we're in the weeds, we have to start looking at it more in the weeds and not all high level.
Be specific now.
We have to be more
Yes.
specific with comments.
So being new, when is this going to be available to the public for them to comment on? Once.
Well, this meeting is public, so we are allowing public to
Okay.
comment right now. That is the point of this, is to allow public comment tonight. So I'm like, if the public has comments, maybe that would be. should get
I mean,
additional-
this has gone through around the.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Almost-
That's where this,
Okay. perfect.
right.
Yeah.
That's where all
Yes,
of,
I did know that.
yeah, that's where all of this came from, was their whole process of it. And they went through and did this and
Okay. I agree. How could we, I feel like having this, I am trying on the website, on our P and Z page, on the very front, to have more of like what upcoming discussions are. And if we want more information to be on there, we can. I have not figured out, I wish there was a way to actually share documents on the website where other people could like comment on them, but I don't know how to do, there's not really a great way for me to do that right now, so really submitting emails is the best way to get us the comments.
well, and I will say, like for me, I like to get the individual emails because then I can take the time that I'm reading that person's email.
Yeah.
I can read it through entirety instead of having like 8,000 comments on one thing and being like overwhelmed with it. I like the personable emails from people. I like getting them. I like to be able to read them, or phone calls. Like phone calls are great too, but I do like the written comments. I like to get them.
Yeah.
And then, and I print all of them off, and I like hard copies of things, and I can sort through them and make my own notes from them. And so for me, I like getting
I
the
totally
emails.
agree with that. I'm saying if there are specific comments to the different line items, it'd be nice to eventually be able to compile them in and not have a 2-page email that's like random
Right.
me to be able to include things. But I agree with you about just like getting comments on emails, and then you know who it's coming from, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you guys have ideas of how we could, I mean, this meeting was in the newspaper. If we need to have another workshop, we can advertise that again.
I mean, I think we should need to move.
Yes.
Chris's suggestion.
It's not a strong suit, so help us up out of it.
Right.
I think we are doing this in public. It is legal notification. We are
Yeah.
getting some great input tonight, so like,
Yeah.
I say.
Just keep going with it.
And if I mean, we should, Facebook pages, people stuff up on, or tell your community if there's, come up with the post office, or that'd be great. I don't think we should slow ourselves down with.
Right. Does someone on the board want to be the PR person? Anyone want that?
I don't.
Well, yeah, we vote Chase. It's unanimous vote.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's on the radio all the time.
It's right there next to it.
And he's on there. He does what is the smooth sailing, the middle of the day. He's Captain Chase. Yeah, he does their yacht rock. Middle of the day yacht rock, smooth sailing. Yeah.
I guess, yes, I guess idea for next steps. You guys thinking?
So, I mean, I think that I think the hardest part with this is that there's a lot, for me, it has been super helpful to have like Chris and Lance here, because this is stuff that I really know nothing about. So that's been super helpful, having them clarify a lot of things. And I think in my mind, hopefully, maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I'm thinking this will progress like better. Like we're just kind of digging into it, but we have a good base to go from.
But I don't, Haley, earlier, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said you would work on drafting.
I mean, that's where I'm like, I can work with Clayton to draft this,
I mean, I think.
but the time it's going to take to do that before coming to the next meeting, that's where we're trying to do a lot in a short amount of time also. And I have to bring Clayton up to speed with everything.
I mean, it seems to me that, but even if we're just drafting, just getting those like, it's either 2 or 3 definitions of this,
Yes.
like that would go a long way because that's, we're gonna need to start a lot of what we talked about hinges on those, and that might be a good thing to work on between now and then. Next meeting.
Just adding those pieces, I think,
Mhm.
clarify.
Those, yeah.
Okay, some of those definitions. Okay,
I think it would be maybe a potential to do additional drafting because I think there's nuances.
Yeah. At this point, I agree.
It's a shame you don't have a consultant. That's for you.
So
She's got her little trusty sidekick here.
her trusty sidekick.
I'll say right now, my issue is her time commitment. We have a lot going on in the
Yeah.
office. And I think that's the one thing I am still trying to figure out priorities and how to do this stuff. And I'm like, I honestly, I want to do it. I want to be involved in the process, but I want to be realistic. And I want to make sure when we have meetings that we're prepared for the meeting
Mhm.
and not wasting people's time. That's my biggest thing, is like valuing your guys' time and being as prepared as possible. And I almost think it is going to take Clayton's involvement.
Yeah.
And I need him to be involved in the process. This is going to take time. So.
And it is, I mean, and we can all, preparing is the easy, I think, like the thing that takes a lot of time is all the deliberation, because we just
Mhm.
we'll spend 30 minutes on,
One,
I know.
yeah.
which we have to deliberate in a public meeting. We're not allowed to do that. And work on it in between meetings.
Right. So do you know what's on the docket for our next meeting
Okay, so that's actually.
tentatively?
What I wanted to talk about was, or I guess we had another item on here as far as other code, if we wanted to discuss that, but it sounds like for right now, there's nothing much to discuss. Besides that, we'll have to update some of chapter 2 for the towers. So maybe that's something we can figure out where we want to be adjusting chapter 2 at the same time. So I could have that together and we could figure out what sections we want to add that in.
That's gonna be a long discussion. I think.
What zones do you want it in?
Yeah.
We have a lot of zone districts. And then the other, I don't know, I just had my agenda and now I'm like, okay, here. I wanted to give you an update about the Albert Ellis CUP. So that application, as you know, they tabled it. It's going to be going to the county commissioners on December 2nd. So they decided on that date. We are going to be sending notices out to neighbors again, and we'll be putting it in the newspaper again, just because we're kind of out of that initial timeline. So we will need to send out those notices again. The next meeting, we have a minor subdivision for it's the Double J minor subdivision. And it's in A1 zoning, and they are proposing to subdivide off 3 acres and rezone it to RR. It seems like this, well, I'll let you guys decide what you think of the application. So that's really the main thing that we have on as far as applications coming to PNC.
Is that complete? Is everything in for that? But you
I-
can send it to
it's-
us, or are you still?
I feel like it's pretty complete, but I talked to, it's actually from Rio Verde. They've done a great job with everything, and I asked them to reach out to a few people. They did, and I just need to sit down and see where we are right now, but we already advertised it. We've already sent out
That's how I know
notices.
about it. I saw it in the.
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, so I'm like, I do need to get on that and actually see where we are with the application. I want to talk to Clayton about this, but I have considered once we get these applications, if there's a way to share it like on the OneDrive so people can look at it. But I don't want to be giving any sort of I don't want to be doing anything that's not, I probably should just get his authorization to do that.
Well, yeah,
If it's not-
complete,
if it's-
and changes come
yeah.
up, yeah, no, I.
You said a minor subdivision, but that sounds like a change of zoning districts too.
It is, yep. Because it would be, there would have to be the rezone for the 3 acres. Yeah. So it's really though, just that rezone is part of the process, just to make sure, because it's less than 35 acres.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of properties in town where they've done minor subdivisions and not rezoned. So that's why we have so many little A1 properties scattered.
So,
And
Oh.
yeah, those are the main things. I also wanted to let you guys know this was submitted. This is going to be at the upcoming county commissioner meeting. And I did talk to Clayton about this. The 40 Rod subdivision from Moyes, that has been, they have requested to terminate the application. And that is just going to be going to county commissioners. It was just determined that based off of the withdrawal of the application, that it needed to just go to county commissioners. And so that's going to them on Tuesday, and
Which one is that?
the 40 Rod
40 Rod West.
West subdivision.
Terminating the.
Yes, yes. And is asking to rezone it back to A1. So, that there were no reasons like in the letter. So, but yes, that is going to.
So
county
that
commissioners.
just goes to county
It-
commissioners.
And Clayton and I talked about that, if it needed to come to planning and zoning first, and the thought was, what,
Not really.
it's
It goes back
it's
to
not,
original.
yes, it's going back to the original. It's not like we're making it go back to what it was, so it seemed like it didn't need to go through that process. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of that, and it will be, the request was to rezone it back to A1. And then I wanted to also just randomly get your guys' thoughts about, and maybe this is something you guys have talked about with code, about definitions of uses within various zone districts. And someone came in and asked me about a specific use and if it was allowed in C1. And I started going through the code and I was like, well, according to my review of this, it doesn't look like it's allowed in C1, but you could get it as CUP. Then I'm like going through the entire code and it's not even like in the entire code. And I am just like, what do we do for this situation? And it says if there's a similar use that it could just get reviewed by planning and zoning and the county commissioners, but it doesn't say what that process is to do it. It doesn't even say it has to be a CUP. And I was asking about the business, and to me, I was just like, I could see where this could fall under C1, but at what point does it, how does this get presented to planning and zoning and to the county commissioners? I was curious if you guys have experience with this, if this has come up before.
Saying determination of similar use touched within these, but I hear you saying you're not sure if it required this.
That's what I'm curious just from your guys' past experience.
Seen that it's been when the determination of similar use is made to something that lives under this.
The CUP.
As a condition. Does. that-
What is it?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even see it listed in anything, any of the zone districts. It's more, I like similar to a distillery canning company that they would be like canning drinks. But I was like, this is according to C1, it's more of like a retail use. And this, but I was like, could this just fall under C1?
So like, I guess in my opinion, if it isn't a similar use that is a CUP, I feel like that falls on the administrator, that you could determine whether or not it's a similar use that is a,
You would
I
think.
mean,
It's not, and that's why I'm just bringing this up, because I was like, I feel like the person is trying to do the right thing and they want clarification. And then they started asking about other businesses. And I'm like, to tell you the truth, as I originally, I was like, this is going to need a CUP. I don't think this is permitted. But then they came back, and I'm trying to be, when people ask me these questions, I'm like, please review the code as well, because it's possible I'm missing something. So we've been kind of emailing back and forth. And Then as I started going through, even industrial, it doesn't quite have this use. But there is another property that is doing something similar in commercial, but it's, to me, even if I see someone else doing it, does it mean that it was done the right way? Did they go through the right process to do that?
Well, and I feel like though, like that this is where we've talked about this a lot, that we're never going to be able to put every single type of business possibly
I know.
imaginable. And so a lot of it, and that's the thing though, is that a lot of it does come down to transgression. And if it's something that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I feel like if it doesn't fall under something that would be considered a CUP, but it's something that's a commercial operation, then it should be allowed under a commercial operation, as long as it's not identified as something that is either not allowed or that should be a CUP. Because we're never going to be able to absolutely list out every single kind of business that you could possibly imagine.
Well,
And
believe me,
so,
I completely agree. But then I look at this right on the screen is from the code, and all it says is uses of similar character, that it needs to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners on recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It doesn't say that there has to be a CUP.
Process.
So I'm like, can I just ask you guys, does canning, like, this is they have a location in mind? Like, to me, it seems like it fits for the area, for this specific person. I'm like, is that me following this section right now? Just asking you this?
Thanks.
I,
It needs to be an application, a hearing.
but I guess that's the thing, is that why should it why should it have to be an application though? If it's something that isn't, just because it's not specifically
I know.
listed as a business. And we talked about this when we started going through this, is that you're never going to be able to list every single kind.
So, but there's something that's a catch-all, which is called general commercial establishments, that's additional uses. So if it's that, I mean, which is there for exactly this reason.
So, okay, so
Sorry, I'm trying to make it so.
retail stores and shops. So are they going to sell this retail, or is this wholesale?
It's more wholesale. So it won't necessarily have a retail component in the shop, but there's also like offices, professional offices. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean
I mean, it could also be wholesale storage or sales establishments, light industrial.
well, exactly. That's where I saw that under light industrial, and that's where.
Yeah, it's hard to say without knowing what the operations.
So the operation, they are not planning on doing any of their own distilling. They will be bringing in, they're making like drink mixes and canning them on site. And it will be a fairly small operation to get going.
That sounds like a general commercial establishment.
And that's where, to me, I just was like, this sounds like but I'm more wanted to get your
So they're
thoughts
not
on.
manufacturing, not like specialized food processing. They're basically bringing in liquids. It sounds like mixing them, jarring them.
And they're using like a professional kitchen. They have
Like, that's the thing, is they'll have to follow under all
have to
health code
exactly.
and the Department of Agriculture.
They would have to do that, but I just was like, how do I just need to get your thoughts on that.
Sounds to me like a general commercial establishment under C1. Unless you call it a food store, general store, and drugstore.
Yes.
I do have a couple of comments. First of all, looks like a duck, sounds like a duck.
Probably is a duck.
In reality, talking about towers, had an opportunity to bid Smith some time ago. Wondering with. And I said to him, this is where you guys can come in, and then if you're comfortable, maybe I'll bring it before. I think there's an opportunity. The state. Some, I'll use the resolution or however you want, but where each county within the state lands follow the zoning in that county. So we have same opportunities. I'm not just speaking to have some authorization. State. I don't know what your feeling might be, but Mike seemed to be accepted to that idea, but I think we'll take a bigger push.
Mm-hmm.
Suggest you think about it. I think it's worth to point. By the commission. Maybe get, I can't imagine other counties having some of the same issues. They probably. That will alleviate some of the state. Everything else, some. Maybe some. Should look at.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it and then.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. We appreciate it. That kind of brings up in mind too, that it would be worth looking at what the state regulations are for towers on state sections. I mean, that would be worth a reference, you know? Just to see, because maybe it's stricter than what we're thinking about even, or maybe it's,
That's less strict.
I would think that so too, but it would be a good reference though, I feel like.
Yeah, we should.
Just so we're aware of currently, because I have no idea.
I think it's cost associated, because the state has to read revenue off state lands. So then,
Right, yeah. No, thank you, Mr. Vickery.
So you have specific questions you need.
I feel like for the tower stuff, I have some steps. I need to talk to Clayton. I guess your guys' ideas on when we actually want to meet up again.
Right now or next week?
It's our regular meeting, so if we wanted to wait like 2 weeks and try to meet
And
again.
do a workshop.
Yeah.
Which would be when?
That would be October 30th.
You mean 2 weeks from now?
If we did 2 weeks from now.
So I tell you, October's tough. I'm hunting a lot. So, not that it has to be around me, but November gets a lot easier. So our next meeting is November 20th. Could we meet like November 6th?
We could do November 6th. I could, what do you guys think? Do you still want to do
Good.
this time? Yeah, I was curious your guys' thoughts on the time. Do people like it being at 6 p.m.? Just curious.
That's like the earliest I can get.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And I feel like for the public, really for everybody to get off of work and be able to reasonably join via online or in person. I feel like 6 works. So November 6th?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
since it's just a workshop, we don't have to
We don't have to advertise 30
Mm-mm.
days, but we still have to advertise it. It just
advertise
doesn't
it, yeah,
need to
but we're
be-
not restricted by
Like
the
even
30
this
days.
meeting, I think I advertised it last week because I had nothing on the agenda
Yeah.
before. And so then I was like, well, let's at least get this on here so people know.
People
what we're
know.
talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next workshop will be November 6th at 6 o'clock here. Oh, I guess we have to make sure, just confirm that there's no other meetings going on. Make sure that this
Good
one's
idea.
available.
Okay.
Tentative till we get confirmation, yeah.
Maybe we could do, if we had to do the library or something.
Yeah.
I'll see. Somebody. Okay. Okay. Well, what do you guys think about that use, if you don't mind? I think the issue is I want to be looking at the code, but I also don't want to be, when I started looking through the rest of the code, I'm like, it's not really anywhere in here. And you think about everything in C1 and I'm just like, the impact that they're having, they're keeping the entire business interior. Like, I personally, there's a lot to it that makes me feel like it's just a permitted use in C1, but I'm more looking at this and seeing that they don't have that retail component, and that's the part that it's just a different,
yeah, I view it as, in my opinion, I would say that it's a permitted use in a C1.
Based on what?
that's the,
I don't see it. I mean, I sympathize with the sentiment,
I
but like
know.
it's not in our regs, and our job is to follow the regs. I would think it's a general commercial establishment, which I don't see anything else listed. And I do think I wouldn't push them into the industrial light with the wholesale based on how you described their operations. Like, I think it sounds like a general commercial establishment. Unless you said, Holly, like it's a food store, general store, and drugstore. That feels a little bit stretching it to me, but you could say you want to avoid CUP, you could say determination, they want to do a determination of similar use. That, I think they put in some sort of application they tell us about their operation. We say, yeah, that sounds reasonable and we recommend it. They make a determination similar use.
that it would be, and I see what you're saying.
Or
So,
general store or something.
yeah.
I think that's kind of a stretch. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but that's the only thing I see where it might be something that's already a permit use as opposed to conditional use.
And I guess this is where it falls back to that I hate that a general, and I know this is the code that we're working with. I know this, but I hate that general commercial establishments is under a CUP. If it's a general commercial establishment, it's a commercial establishment. It should be permitted. If it's not one of those, that is a conditional. I know we can't change that now, but I'm just voicing my opinion that if it's a general, it should be a permitted use. And you shouldn't have to get a conditional use because it's not something that is specifically listed up there. And it's not something that is specifically a conditional use.
And I'll say right now, there's another business out there that is similar that just got the building permit. But that is where I'm like, just because it happened before doesn't mean that that's the way that it should be. So I want to make sure, but yes, I feel like the general commercial establishment under the conditional use is very vague.
Well, but it's there, one, to be a catch-all, and two, because it's a catch-all, you just don't know what it's gonna look like to play safe rather than loose
Yeah.
with the regulations and make sure that because you might not, I mean, we don't, it could be something totally different, Holly, that you actually think is a horrible thing that shouldn't be permitted and it should be a conditional use. I mean, it could be a number of them. So, I mean, I agree, this sounds like goes a little bit over the top for this, but I don't think we could say like, all right, you guys scoot by and then try to be like with someone else, take a different approach. We have to be equitable.
Are you getting heat because this other permit was established and
It's more, it came up, they questioned it. And I was like, I would be curious if anything how this has been handled in the past. That's why I was coming to you guys too, is to see how has this been handled, for other situations, if people have fallen under that similar use category. It doesn't specify like if an application is required. So I just was curious how, if you guys have experience with something else.
I have no experience.
And it on applications, I think associated with
Okay.
CUP.
Okay.
I mean, I think in order for us to make a recommendation, I think we have to have some basis. So it has to be, we need them to tell us what they're doing.
That's my original thought, was that it would have to be a CUP, because that's really the time that you're explaining the business and you're giving the notice to the neighbors. That's the only opportunity. Otherwise, you're just coming to P and Z and asking for this use. And does that mean if we permit it, or if the county commissioners permit it, that's a blanket like approval for anybody down in the future?
I do. I mean, I agree with you, Holly. Like, they'll want to just say yes, but because it sounds like hard to get.
I mean, I guess taverns is in here, like, but again, that's like a public, like a retail. It's, and the area they want to put this in is honestly like a retail industrial area or a commercial industrial area. And I'm like, wow, this almost is more of like, it's almost like the whole zone to me is being more of this mixed light industrial and commercial use for the area. But just wanted to share it with you guys.
Well, it's good because
When we do
Going
the
through
code,
that.
but doing the code rewrite, I think it's good for us to be experiencing some of this. So when we are looking at the code rewrite, we can try to improve some of these things. I know when I keep thinking when I was with the town, but I think we had to add brew pub, something with breweries. We had to add brewery to the town code because it wasn't anywhere in the code. So it's like little things like that where it's like, even if it's not in here, like, do we have to just add some of these things into it when it, at some point?
Or describe the things that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like
like
that,
that.
what that type of business, I feel like is a pretty common type of business that you run into these days. That's
Right.
exactly in those types of places. So. It'd be-
It's in a commercial area. It's even.
I feel like
Mhm.
some of the things on this, I just. How many, okay,
I'm glad we can
that's
help you
all.
with.
Thank you guys for nothing.
Anytime. Anytime we can help.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I mean, interestingly though, I mean, I had to go to the county commissioners for the clarification about the accessory use and the primary use structure, but I feel like these are things that, yes, I want to be able to make decisions. As the administrator, I want to be able to make a good decision and not have to come to you guys if it's something that we can handle in our office, but I also want to make sure that if there's something I'm questioning, or like, I think there are things that are legit that I just want feedback or to share with you guys of like what some of the issues are that we're dealing with.
Well, I think it's important as we go through and do this, that you do, because we don't know. We're not in your,
Yeah,
we're not at your desk, thankfully.
I mean, the other
So-
option we have, we can, I mean, we could, if we felt like we would have the language, we could like. Take the regs, just, we could
specific.
add something now. And
Right.
recommend it to the board of commissioners. I mean, actually, we can't because we didn't advertise it.
We didn't.
We could next month. I don't know how fast these people are moving, like. change
Something,
it.
yeah.
Always change it.
we would have to advertise it, but yeah, it's just as interesting running into more of these are very specific, but then the gaps of.
It would be interesting to do a kind of like a survey. Doesn't see how well businesses.
Yes, like to survey, how do the businesses that currently exist, do they all fit into
Like
this?
what could we describe in attributes rather than.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting.
it would be.
That feels like that should just.
But if we did that, FYI, there would be, I mean, enforcement, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, no, I think though, like
It's more,
looking moving forward, because like I said, this is a section that we've discussed
it's,
in our process. And we have discussed it, that trying to find better, more inclusive verbiage. Inclusive, is that the word I want to use? Maybe. Of those that aren't specifically listed.
And I can see, you can tell, I mean, the regular written clearly to try to put like kind of light manufacturing stuff and industrial light, like keep retail stuff in C1.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like this is kind of in an industrial area. It's not
it
like
is.
strippers.
I mean, the fact that it's zone C1 and there is light industrial like right next to it, I just was like,
And it's not like it's a great big
The building's
huge
already there.
manufacturing plant.
right.
You
the
know,
building's there, and I was like, you almost could be doing this and it's an office that you're doing some work inside here that's more than office work, but it just is.
I might encourage them to just try to come to us with a determination similar to something.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did that, are you suggesting if they did that, they could just come to one of these meetings without a CUP process?
Just
Mhm.
patients, which there's no, frankly, there's no criteria for. There's
Right.
a process spelled out, but I would think that they.
Can
just
this count? Can this count as that?
Like, it feels like the details are kind of ambiguous, like I want to know more. That's just my opinion.
Small business operation of canning.
Say where it is, all we know is that it's not on
I
Main
feel-
Street.
That's the thing. I feel like she didn't give me, I should have asked her if she's okay with me disclosing, but I didn't disclose. I told her I wasn't gonna say.
But Haley, I want to say on a different point, the amount of thought that you put into each of these. I mean, I trust your judgment. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
just need to feel that from us. If you
Yes.
want to make a decision like that, like I would trust your judgment. You put so much thought into every little part of this. Like, I'm telling you, have confidence in your thought process,
Yeah.
because I would support you on it.
I
If the
agree.
time comes, whether it's now or in the future, where you feel like as an administrator, you can and want to make that decision. I mean, you've proven your abilities to me.
I agree.
So you've
Well,
done.
thanks, guys. That's kind. Until 3 years later, someone notices.
Mr. Vickery?
Say like, I feel good about that because I do trust you innately, but if we had someone that was less diligent and there was a precedent set. And if the decision is a determination of similar use, if that's the process, it has to follow from us to the.
That's kind
Yeah.
of why I saw that similar use and I was like,
So if it was just a call you made, you'd have to just say. this
hey,
is a
can I
test.
read the email? Can I read the email and can you guys decide based off of the email that I read? I won't share my screen. I know everyone's busy right now, but this is what the operation is. Yep, it's my screen. Okay.
Can we make a recommendation on this though, since it wasn't?
I know.
I mean,
Maybe at our
we
next,
have anything that the motion is.
You're right.
recommended.
Okay, well, never.
the next meeting, maybe
Okay,
and you can get a little more detail.
I'll get a little bit
Where
more
it is,
detail
Mhm.
and we
fill
can
us
do-
in
You're
more,
right,
and then-
because, but it wouldn't be advertised.
Well, by
But it
the,
doesn't say it has to be
Well,
advertised.
hold on, now, but we have 4 more days to get, is it not?
I already did the advertisement and theoretically the newspaper publishes on Thursdays. So
Okay.
it's because we only have the one newspaper.
Is it for next
date.
Thursday though? Isn't it for next Thursday? For publishing?
It published already, the one that you saw in the newspaper about the minor subdivision. I had to get it, you just saw
Oh,
it
yeah,
today.
yeah, geez.
You just saw it today.
Mr. Vickery?
I'd like to say what Pete just said. I've been on the commission of some a young lady. We've seen more pertinent information. Just the short time that she's been. They That's the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So correct. You agree with it? Make a decision. Yeah.
Thought out.
Yes. Very much. Thank you, Doug. I completely agree.
This is triggered because they came in for a building permit or something?
No, it's a lease property and the owner asked that they get authorization from the county that it was a permitted use.
Hmm.
So that's why the whole thing came up. And I was like, they're trying to do their due diligence. And then I'm like,
So there's like a tight timeline they're trying to.
they are trying to make it happen. And I should have emailed her and been like, do you care if I tell them who you are? And I'm like, she probably wouldn't, but I could see about maybe the workshop.
Right, I was gonna say we could potentially legally notice it for the 6th, if we're 6th.
But I don't think we would meet the timeline.
Still,
It's like a 30-day, like
so,
everything,
yeah, we're doing it earlier. So I was thinking after the.
everything is a 30-day requirement. And it's tough when we have the one newspaper that's only on Thursdays and
Well, would she be okay with the 20? I mean, I know it's a month away, but
The 20th.
the 20th?
I can talk to her about it and say we could, even the 20th, we missed our deadline. But I'm like, do we have to legally notice it though? Put a notice about
If
it.
she's not doing conditional use.
If it's something that we're making motions on and we've had to cancel.
Really?
Yeah, I can't see mine. I like how that was done.
It was on accident.
We'll see, we're not, it wasn't. but
I will say that staying on top of it, it's been kind of hard. And then when it's like applicants are tabling things too, now it's like we have to be double noticing and I am just like, if I miss it. And like they have to be it has to be 30 to 45 days out for planning and zoning and 14 to 30 for, yes. And it's like trying to stay in those windows when literally you have 2 days for the newspaper in those time periods. Like that does not help our situation at all. So
And it has to be the county newspaper.
it has to be the
Has to be
roundup.
Designated.
The
And I'm like, if we
designated.
had more days, we might have it might not be as big an issue, but I think we still.
On the roundup. Oh,
Well, that may
Anyway.
just be what it is. We have to do that then.
I'll talk to Clayton
Um,
about it too, but I mean, it seems like it would fit. But I agree. I want to make sure the process, if we need to go through a process, that like we're doing it right. So I'm sorry, we're ending, it's 9:20.
You're good. Just to make everyone aware too, I will not be able to make meeting on the 20th. I have to have another procedure done on the 21st on the old bum leg. So I will be gone that night, so everybody's aware. So,
Those are
Miss ya.
quorum.
yeah. All right, so is there anything else for this evening?
Okay, sorry, I'm gonna bring this up, but do you guys feel like we're going to be able to pass something on November 20th? Because if not, if we need to schedule another meeting and get it advertised, just wondering if we need to think that far out.
I would love to.
I'm just-
We made progress tonight.
I mean, it just seems like getting it done by November 20th is going to be extremely difficult, but
It would be.
but I am going to need to figure out if we need to advertise again, and maybe we could figure this out at the next workshop. Assume we are. Okay.
Have to.
Oh, assume we're gonna.
What's the harm in putting it out there and we
It
don't?
doesn't, there
Then
isn't.
let's just say.
Should we just advertise that
Advertise if we are, and
December
if we don't, we don't.
Mhm.
for the December meeting? Okay. I
Which
think
is-
we still have a little time, but
Yep.
okay.
Might be a tricky.
Sorry that I keep bringing up meetings. Like you have nothing else going on.
We're here for you.
Let's see what I almost was like, oh, great, that's on Christmas.
Yeah.
Spend Christmas.
Is Santa coming?
December 18th.
Anyway, okay.
Perfect. Okay. We don't have anything else? Any other comments, concerns, comments from the public? All right. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to the folks that are in the audience tonight. And thank you guys very much for being here. And I will adjourn this meeting at 9:27 p.m. Thank you.